Evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for that mishap. I was trying to prepare. How are you, wakurugenzi? How are you, lovely people? Wana Kenya, watu wa Kenya, watu popote mlipo, karibu kwa hii show kali, show mmekuja kupenda, show mmekuja show nambari moja hapa Kenya kwa kukuletea burudani murwa inapotimu midaya saa 4. Welcome to this wonderful show, a show you have made number one simply because of following us and liking it and being part of it. Thank you very much. Tune in to the very end, and as I've always told you, this one you are going to love, this one you're going to like. I have a great show lined up for you. As usual, I'm your host Jex, the moderator. This is Africa 24. Karibu sana, jiunge nami, wacha tuwe na show moja kali, show moja fiti. Jiunge nami, fanya vipi? Like hii video, subscribe to Africa channel, wacha tuwe na show moja fiti. Subscribing to Africa channel guarantees you great prizes, grand prizes, simply by subscribing to Africa 24. Kimbia hapo YouTube, subscribe to Africa 24. Hapo kwa YouTube unatafuta tu Africa 24, jinsi ambavyo inaapia kwa screen, and you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, and above also hit the notification bell so that when we prepare such a video you are able to be notified. Nijuze unanitazama ukiwa wapi. Let me know where you're watching me from. Let me know where you're watching me from. Hapo kwa comment section, let me know where you're watching me from. I have a great show for you. This one you must love. This one you must enjoy. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and be part of the larger family. Thank you very much. Subscribing to Africa guarantees you great prizes, just like I've said. Asante sana. Wewe unanitazama ukiwa wapi? Let me know where you're tuning in from. I have a great, wonderful conversation about to happen hapa kwa Africa TV. Jiunge nami, nijuze unatazama ukiwa wapi. Na mwana mamake Denik amekuwa wa kwanza. Anasema Zakayo ni mwizi. We sawa. Let me know where you're watching me from. Nijuze, tuma ujumbe tu hapo kwa comment section. Let me know where you're watching me from. Nieleze unatazama ukiwa wapi. Watu mko vipi? How are you? I'm doing well despite the cold kidogo, but tuko salama, Mungu anasaidia. Thank you so much for being part of this great conversation. I have a great show lined up for you. Karibu sana wadau, karibu sana. Join in, like the video. That is how you also equally help to make others know this show is on. Like hii video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Wacha tufanye ile kitu. Tufanye kitu gani? Tusaidie wengi kujua hizi story ambazo tuko about to share and talk about. Kimbia hapo Africa, subscribe. Kimbia hapo Africa, subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Subscribing to Africa 24 guarantees you grand prizes. Kuna mazawadi zinakuja kwa wale ambao wana subscribe. Utashangaa very soon nikianza kusema wale wamewin. Usikose, jina lako lisikosekane hapo. Zawadi kemkem, zawadi murwa, vitu safi, vitu moto, vitu nzuri pale Africa 24. Na mwana mamake Denik anasema Zakayo ni mkora sana na government yake. Maoni yako ni yapi? I'll be telling you why the heading, why the thumbnail, why the poster. Kenya ni kama place ya video na drama. Vitu hazikosi. Kunayo vitu kali, vitu moto. Natumai utakuwa miongoni mwa wale ambao wanajiunga nasi. Jiunge nasi kupitia comment section na pia kupitia live. I'll be telling you just now how to join me live on stage. Leo, habari ya leo kakangu, uko vipi? How are you my brother? Leo, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Niko salama.
Kushinda uko
kushinda nimeshinda poa sana. Leo imekuwa ni weekend nzuri. Nimeona vijana wetu wameweza kutuwakilisha bora kwenye uwanja.
Wamecheza vizuri sana Sakafa.
Wale, alafu tukienda upande mwingine, sisi kama wafuasi wa Arsenal pia tunatarajia mema. Ingawaje mambo hayapo vizuri, lakini bado tunasherehekea, manake Manchester City manake Manchester City na Liverpool ambao ndio wapinzani wetu wa karibu waliweza kutoka sare pale. Inamaanisha mambo sio mbaya, lakini pia
sisi naona tuko sare tasa, no?
tunawapa pole ndugu zetu wa Chelsea, manake wameweza kupigwa pale kipigo cha mbu wa jikoni wakati wa kiangazi. All is well in the political line. I know you've also lined a lot for us, and I know you also have to give us an opportunity to appreciate. We saw ODM is reviving itself, and they've really gained a lot in Migori. Pengine utuelekeze na sisi tutaweza kuzungumza jinsi yafahavyo.
Wana Arsenali tuko kumaombi, tuko sare tasa kwa sasa. We are at 0-0. We are praying, we hope that we win this game. Tukiwin tutaongoza ligi, tutakuwa at least na point 30, kwa sababu leo Man City wametoka draw. Sijui unashabikia timu gani? Sijui unashabikia timu gani? Na pia vijana wa kwetu hapa nyumbani wamefanya ile kitu wadau. Wamefanya ile kitu, at least wamewin 5-0, which was a good commendable game. Itazame pale Afrique, hiyo game tulileta live hapa kwa Afrique TV. So subscribe to Afrique TV. Hapa kuna uhondo, kuna vitu kali, utapata mbwembwe na mambo tamu hapa kwa Afrika. Arsenal na hope watafunga, wakifunga sawa, dakika ni 84. Sijui kutakuwa vipi, lakini mwisho wa siku wacha turejee kwa show. Tunao show kali. Hii nchi yetu ukikaa sana unaweza kupitwa na mambo mengi, maana yake kila siku kuna vituko, kila siku kuna mambo ambayo hutokea katika nchi yetu tukufu ya Kenya. Tuanze wapi? Tuanze wapi? One, kuna vitu kadhaa zime happen. Juzi KCP ilitokea, lakini matokeo yamekuwa visivyo. Inaonekana kuna mahali kuna hitilafu. Sijui siku hizi serikali imekuwa vipi, kila kitu yao inatoka ikiwa na hitilafu. Hadi ile gazette notice ambayo ilikuwa inatangaza watu watalipa shilingi 1000 kwa kupata ID, walisema ilikuwa na hitilafu. Sasa pia matokeo ya KCPE yametoka yakiwa na hitilafu. Serikali ya Ruto nakwambia iko na vitu manze, iko na vitu, lakini si vitu tu. Kuna historia hapa ilianza leo.
Wami ujunet dakika chiel. Natike untie. Nimesikia Ruto amekuja kuiba shamba hapa. Nimesikia ni mwizi ya shamba. Wacha niambie nyinyi, tutapambana na yeye bunge na tutapeleka yeye kotini, na hiyo shamba hawezi kuiba. Asanteni sana. Wacha Fatuma akuja wasalimie.
Wanadai Ruto amekuja kuiba mashamba tena. Walimuita Zakayo kwa sababu ya ushuru, sasa wamemuita mwizi sababu ya shamba pale Migori. Okay. Sawa, karibu sana kwa show. Mimi ni wenyu ule mkali, jamaa wenyu, jamaa mmekuja kulike, jamaa anaitwa Jix. Karibuni sana kwa hii show fiti, show kali, show mmekuja kudhamini. Hii show imedhaminiwa na Afrique 24 kwa hisani yako wewe, ili uweze kujinice, kujienjoy na kujua yanayojiri hapa nchini na ulimwengu kote. Asante pia kwa sababu tumeungana ama tumedhaminiwa pia na Mtembei TV, Mtembei Facebook, Leo TV, Leo Facebook, wote wamedhamini hili kipindi ili ikufikie wewe popote ulipo. Lakini licha ya hayo 9 ni kwamba subscribe to Afrique 24. Wacha tufanye ile kitu. Let us grow together. Let us make this channel one of the very finest. Now, we are talking about this issue of land again. Now, this time round, Raila has come out gun blazing, saying that close to 5,000 acres of land in Migori that is rich in gold and other minerals is being salivated upon by the president, or rather by the government. They want to privatize or even grab it in some ways. What do you think? Is it true? What do you think of the recent released KCPE results that had very serious mishap in them? Yani unakuta darasa mzima wanapata marks same kwa subject moja. Wanafunzi kwa mfano wanafunzi 40 wote wapate marks sawa. Hakuna anything more or anything less. It's just kama 75 wote 75 in one subject. How do you explain that a school that does not have sign language but does Kiswahili wanapata marks za sign language lakini wana miss marks za Kiswahili? Machogu. Naonanga ndugu yangu leo anapenda kumsema ni the shiesh. Ndugu yangu leo anapenda kumdescribe kama the shiesh. Leo wacha tuanze hapo. Wacha tuanze na KCPE before tuje hapa kwa hii leo. Shida iko wapi? Kwa sababu hata kuna fununu kuna duru ambazo ni kana kwamba za kuaminika, yaweza kuwa pia yule jamaa tuliyemsifu hapa Nuru Okanga, yaweza kuwa matokeo yake yalikuwa si hivyo. Maoni yako vipi? Leo maoni yako ni vipi kulingana na matokeo haya na jinsi serikali ni kana kwamba kila kitu yake
Asante sana Jackson. Umejua wakati mwingine kwa tukizungumza watu hudhania ni kwa sisi tunachukia serikali, lakini ningependa kuambia Wakenya kuwa la hasha, hatuchukii serikali, hatuna chuki na tena hatuombei serikali letu kuu la Kenya alianguke. Manake nchi yetu ni nchi yetu na sisi ndio Wakenya. Kenya likianguka sisi sote tutakuwa tumeanguka. Na kile kinachofanyika ni ukweli kuwa wale watu ambao tuko nao kama viongozi ama wale ambao wamepewa nyadhifa mbalimbali ili kuweza kuliongoza hili taifa hawajahitimu vizuri na pia hawalielewi kile wanachofanya. Kwa mfano ukiliangalia hili suala la mtihani, unaambiwa kuwa katika shule moja unapata wanafunzi wote wameamua kupata alama sawa. Hilo haliwezi likafanyika. Hakuna jinsi wanafunzi wote kwa mfano wanafunzi 40 wanaweza kupata alama sawa. Lazima kuwe na tofauti. Kuna wengine wanaweza kuwa wametoshana lakini lazima kuwe na tofauti. Sasa kwa hayo kile Wakenya wanaweza kusoma au kuelewa ni kuwa kunaye mtu ambaye alilala kazini. Kunaye mtu ambaye hakufanya kazi yake jinsi inavyotakikana. Ana pengine nikisema kwa lugha ya Kimombo utapata kuwa there are some people who did not do something right. And then secondly, you'll find that the government was in a rush to release the examination so that they can be seen. You know what happens in this country is people want to be seen working. They're not working, but they want to create a perception that they are working. So in order for Ruto's government to be seen working, and they want to be seen that they can be able to mark the papers within the shortest time and give results, they ended up erring. So they forgot that it is good sometimes to take time and do some due diligence. So people were in a hurry to compile these results. People were in a hurry to announce the results so that they can portray a picture to fellow Kenyans that, look, we are working, we've managed to mark the exam so fast, we've managed to give you the results. So that is what has brought what we are seeing here. It pains that you didn't take sign language, and when you look at your paper, they told you you scored some marks in sign language. So it gives an opportunity, a window for anybody to go and dismiss the results and say, okay, these results are not mine because of these irregularities that has happened. So it's unfortunate that it happened at the time that people expected to give it we are supposed to end this KCP. We were supposed to end it in a style, but unfortunately we decided to end it with some irregularities. Mungu anafanya kazi kivyake. Wakati unajigamba unajua kazi, Mungu naye anajitokeza.
Nimejaribu kudisplay waliofanya bora kulingana na gazeti ya leo ya The Standard, na jina ambalo niling'ang'ana, nilitia bidii kutafuta ilikuwa ya Nuru Okanga. Sikumpata kwa sababu kulikuwa na mwanadada pale akawa na maki 400, kulikuwa na mwingine alikuwa na maki 400, 200, right? Kuna mwingine na mark 409. I'm sure kama alikuwa na mark 401 hangekosa katika gazeti. Unaona, kama kuna huyu mwanadada anaitwa Tian Ayana alipata 400 na anatoka shule ya Lord Egerton Academy na alikuwa na 402. Kama Nuru Okanga alikuwa na 401, I'm sure hange miss out, ama vipi?
Jenks, hapo kama Nuru angekuwa na alama 400 angetokea kwenye gazeti, lakini leo hii ukiita Nuru Okanga atakwambia si hata wewe umeona watu wamepewa sign language, so kuna uwezekano kuna makosa. So what has happened is a mistake that have opened the windows. Even those kids who did not perform well, now they will have to get an excuse and say that, you see, the results that were given to me were not mine. And there are kids I've seen complaining. There are kids who are sure that there are some that were surprised they got some higher marks that they did not expect, marks that they've never gotten. There are some whose expectations were high, but these exams have given them something different. So it's so unfortunate that the government has proved incompetency, and specifically when it comes to the matter of education, this is the sector that needs a lot of due diligence and a lot of accuracy. So the moment you mess up the education system, you're messing up the entire future of the country, because these are the children who are going to be the future leaders. These are the future economists, and they're the ones who are going to drive this country in the next decades. But if you interfere with your life, like you've demoralized some by giving them wrong marks, you've awarded some marks that they don't deserve, then it tells you how crooked the nation is going to be in the near future. So the government needs to apologize. I've not had any conference or any address from the minister or from the National Examination Council, but they need to apologize to the country. They need to recall these exams and maybe remark. And I don't think the problem was in marking. The problem was in where they were compiling this mark. So they need to recompile and take some due diligence and give Kenyans something that is accurate.
What was the rush? What really was the rush?
But the rush was to portray themselves as a working nation. Remember, we are having a country whereby people want to show that they are really working. They're not working, but they want to portray that for picture. They want to create a perception that they are working. So what you do, they rush, they don't care. They just do things to please people for popularity, but it has backfired.
Now, of course, Babu Owino had something to say concerning this.
Kazi's constituency. I want to take this opportunity to express my disappointment in the just released KCP examinations. We as a nation, we've really failed. The government has failed us. The government has failed the parents and the candidates who sat for the examinations. Take, for example, a school like Utawala Academy, where candidates never sat for sign language as a subject, but the sign language as a subject, the grades have come back to all the candidates. Kiswahili as a subject has not been factored in Utawala Academy. Other schools in parts of the country, there are subjects like science as a subject, which has been released, showing that all the candidates who sat for examination scored 75%. So there's a lot of confusion, and I want to ask President Ruto not to joke with the education sector. He's already killed our education by increasing the university fees, and right now universities are preserve of the rich. Right now, even at the level of primary education, we are completely messing with our children. We are using them as a control experiment, as guinea pigs, and we should not reach that level as a nation, because we are stooping so low to ensure that we work so hard in failing the future of this nation. So I want to ask Ruto to move with speed, to talk to NEC, to ensure that the corrections, the mistakes, both voluntary and involuntary mistakes that have been engineered by the NEC, should be corrected very fast. They should not blame the system, the Safaricom system of dispensing the SMSs. That is not a problem in this case. The problem in this case is the information that are being released to the students, is how the papers were marked, is how the whole process was conducted. We should not hurry just to release the results to be seen as competent, while releasing wrong results shows a lot of incompetency in our system. Thank you and God bless you all.
Now, do you agree with Babu Owino that most of what we are seeing only depicts incompetence? Because why rush only to do a bad thing? You know, the students were not reporting tomorrow morning to high school. You know, they still a whole month of December. There's still some time, because I think school resume around 2nd or 8th, thereabout. So how comes they had to do it so fast? Being the final one, I think it ought to have received the respect, the honor of closure that it deserves. It should have ended nicely, not in controversy. What do you think, sir?
I completely agree with the wise man. That is the next governor of Nairobi, Babu Owino. If there is any youthful leader who values education, then we have to give it to Babu Owino. We have many youthful leaders of members of parliament and the senators in the national and the Senate, but most of them, they don't talk much about education. Even when you give them a platform, they would rather talk about luck and how to come from grass to grace. But they would never tell you that you really need to work hard through education, because education is the equalizer. It's the only opportunity that allows the sons and daughters of the poor to have an opportunity of sharing the table with the sons and daughters of the rich. So Babu Owino is somebody who takes education seriously, and whenever he talks matters education, he takes it with a lot of precision. So I agree with him that what happened was a complete show of incompetence. The government really showed how incompetent they are. Number two, there was no need for the government to rush into releasing these results, because there was no point of releasing the results maybe a month or some 5 weeks earlier before joining Form 1. Then you make errors that is raising eyebrows to almost the entire country, because the next thing that we are going to see, most of these schools or most of the parents are going to petition the National Examination Council to either recheck their kids' papers or to do a review. And by this, it means that the government will again have to spend money, because people have to be involved in doing such things, and they're not going to do it for free. It's also going to be a waste of time. And the worst part of it is that it has really ashamed the integrity of our education. Remember, the Kenyan education system is really recognized, and it's really most people admire our education system, not only in Africa but even outside Africa. So if people start to see such kind of activities taking place, then they'll start questioning those people who go through our education system. They'll start bringing some barriers whereby for you to maybe continue learning or continue education in these countries, they'll have to take you through some tests, or they have to do some due diligence. So it's really a shame. They've ashamed the education system in Kenya. And this was the moment you are supposed to end the 844 or to end the class 8 KCP in style. But we've shamefully ended it. It has shown what is an incompetent government.
Now, the Nairobian as well had an interesting story. I don't know if you were able to catch the Nairobian today. This was the Nairobian. It focused more on the riddle of the woman who we have come to know as Njeri. Hey, nakwambia, this lady amefanya mambo huku nje. What do you think of this story? Is it going anywhere anytime soon?
Jax, I know there's some things that I don't know if you are new in this country. If you look at our newspapers, we always have headlines, and people will always talk of them. People will always make jokes out of them. People will make some breaking news out of them. But before maybe even things settle, there will always be another thing to replace it. So Kenya is a suckers of this kind of stories and some rhetoric happenings. So this is just a story that is going nowhere. So ever since maybe William Ruto took office, we've had several stories, we've had scandals, and some of these somebody might think it is normally a government's way of diverting attention. When something serious wants to happen, to divert your attention so that you stop addressing the real issues, so that you stop thinking and discussing the issues affecting you, then they'll always come up with a story that will divert your attention. So by the time your attention is diverted, they get away with the real issues. Like this story of diesel import and the 17 billion. In the next 1 week, the story will fade off. Nobody will even be there to follow up on it. We've had big stories making up the headline. So there's a point when the government is incompetent. The government wanted to increase taxes. The government increased fee on things like national IDs and whatever. People had such discussion, and actually this week the is it the NHIF bill was put into practice. It is now legal, and from the salary that people are going to get from next week, they are going to get it deducted. Right now, Ruto is proposing some additional, I don't know, 1.1% on all salaried men and women in this country. So to make you forget about those things and not focus on them and interrogate them, they will always come up and illuminate such stories. So this story is going nowhere. In the next few months, I know next week we will be discussing the, how do you call it, the bipartisan talk results,
which will be talking. They are
so the report
already
is also
submitted their report.
Actually, it's also going to be controversial. So we'll forget about this story and talk about the controversy in the bipartisan report. Then after the bipartisan report, there will come something else. So it's so sad that such kind of things takes more of our time. Like I was so surprised to hear the president addressing the nation today, telling us how the government is putting in plan measures to ensure that they protect lives. This is after 70 people have lost lives carelessly because of his misinformation that El Nino will not be there. Several thousands of people have been displaced. There are places that even the county governments and the NGOs and humanitarian actors cannot be able to deliver food simply because the roads are impassable, the trucks cannot reach there. So today is when they think, okay, we've been having some helicopters, we can use them in dropping food. And you'll remember last week when we were given a tree planting holiday, each and every cabinet secretary was assigned a chopper to go and plant a tree. Remember, they were using choppers to plant a tree that is worth 200 shillings, and they were using almost 1 million in a day. But they can't assign the same choppers to go and drop food to people who are in need.
Okay, we'll be coming to all that in a short
while. The president didn't even apologize. He took it as if it is normal. People should die is when the government responds. Some kind of carelessness.
Now, just to take you back now from the Nairobian, I see opportunity the story of Nani coming out. It reads that the self-professed follower of Pastor Ezekiel claims though she's rich, she chose a simple life because as a woman of God, she doesn't want to flaunt her wealth. Now, I don't know why they had to rub in the name of Pastor Ezekiel in that, but find out more by reading the Nairobian, and as well by linking tomorrow morning tomorrow morning kwenye magazeti, and of course you will be able to find out more. Subscribe to Afrique, they'll be showing you more on our newspapers. There's a show starting tomorrow morning. Subscribe to Afrique, utakuwa unaletewa magazeti moja kwa moja na mambo mengi ambayo yanakuwa yana happen. So every day in the morning, tune in to Afrique. We'll be having a nice show in the morning, nice conversation in the morning, discussing what is happening, the latest in the newspapers and the latest in the world as far as news is concerned. Let's come back to the show. Now, what informed our show today? It's what made round in the social media. there is this claim happening now that kuna mashamba yanataka kuporwa kule Migori. Listen to Junet Mohammed.
Wami uju net dakika chiel.
Nyatike, nimesikia Ruto amekuja kuiba shamba hapa. Nimesikia ni mwizi ya shamba. Wacha niambie nyinyi, tutapambana na yeye bunge na tutapeleka yeye kotini, na hiyo shamba hawezi kuiba. Asanteni sana. Wacha Fatuma akuja wasalimie.
That the government intends to gazette the land around this area, about 5,000 acres, as a forest land. This is being done with a very nefarious intention. This area is rich in minerals, and we know that the intention is not forestry. The intention is to grab this land so that they can be able to acquire the mines here and continue to mine the gold here against the wishes of the people of Nyatike and Migori at large. We want to say that this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. This is a people's land, and it should remain in the hands of the county government, not national government.
Now, talking of divergatory stories, ama story ambazo zina to take from what we were facing to something all over. Why do you think Raila Odinga is bringing this issue that kuna shamba inataka kuporwa? Is it because alikuwa Migori? Why bring that story now? Do you think it's true? If it's so, why now? Leo.
I think when it comes to such kind of issues, somebody of Raila's caliber have been in this country long enough to understand and know these politicians by their character and their intention.
Okay.
And maybe if you happen to engage those people who lived during Moi's time, you'll find that the close confidants of Moi, most of them are the greatest landowners in this country, yet they didn't spend any amount. Moi would wake up and say, Jex, this land belongs to you. Moi used to give almost everybody who was close to him pieces of land. And he was wise enough. He knew how he was doing it. So this land was first of all declared a public land, or they would come up with something like a forest reserve or such kind of things. And then from that, you get away of giving it to his the politically right individuals. So when Ruto came into power, I can also sense something like that happening, or the return of the Moi tactics, because gazetting, I don't know which kind of gazettement is going to be done, that you're gazetting a place that is being gazetted as a forest, and this is people's either privately owned land or community land. So we've had so many issues and cases of some land malpractices taking place ever since. Ruto's history with the land is known. It is not a secret. He's been proved guilty severally, and was given some remedy or some punishment to pay or back the land. Not once. I think there are two incidences that have been taken to court, and court had pronounced itself on it. So people will always be careful when it comes to such kind of things. Look at the person who is at the land ministry, Alice Wahome. Alice Wahome is also a lawyer who is not that clean. She was mentioned in some estate management of this, I think it is Mbiu Koinange, for some stealing or using or misappropriating some money over there. The other day, there's this case that is going between the, how do you call this guy? Kirima's family and those residents of Njiru, Kasarani, and Embakasi East. So the case is in court. The court pronounced itself. These guys went to Court of Appeal, and they got some court orders barring the Kirima's family, or the ones managing that estate, from conducting demolition. But even after court had pronounced itself, the minister or the CS land goes publicly and tells the people how the government is not going to intervene, how the land belongs to people. So that is biasness. And that one tells you how people can misuse the office. So maybe she's placed there purposefully to do such kind of things. So people just need to be careful.
Okay. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, tulikuwa tu tunaanza show. That is to tell you we have a lot to discuss. Zaidi ya yote, karibu sana kwa show. Wewe ambao unajiunga nasi, karibu sana. Karibu sana. Namuona Vincent Apondi amefanya ile kitu, anatuma hapo ujumbe mkali, ujumbe mrefu. Namuona Goodyear vile yako kwa show. Thank you so much Goodyear for being part of the Noble family. American Kenyan comedian, I see you. Asante sana. Jamaa anajiita hapa no jokes ako ndani. Asante sana kwa ujumbe wako, nimeuona. Thank you so much. Let me know where you're watching us from, where you're tuning in from. Mama Academic, asante sana. Asante pia kwa wale ambao wana like. Nani amelike hii video? Na mwana Wafula Emmanuel amefanya ile kitu. Asante sana Wafula Emmanuel. Offline kwa Mboka, asante sana. Vincent Apondi, asante. Paulo Paul, I thank you. Na mwana hapa nani? Adi, asante sana. Pius Ekasiba, I see you. Zuru Kenya, I see you. Nani mwingine? Naona wengi mnatuma ujumbe. Kipiegon KA, I see you. Asante sana. Vincent Kemani, asante kwa kulike hii video. Pius Ekasiba, asante sana. Shem Bright, I see you. Thank you for liking this video. Morata Adi, asante kwa kulike hii video. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to our Freak 24 channel yako namba moja, channel kali, channel moto, channel fiti, channel inakuletea vitu kali. Asante sana kwa kuwa miongoni mwetu. We are in this show and we invite you to join us. Of course, I'm in the studio with Leo and we are doing it together. Let me see you joining us. Na kutumia link hapo kwa comment section. Hapo kwa comment section, link inaingia vipi? Inaingia na ujumbe StreamYard. Itaingia either kwa Mtembei TV, Africa TV, Leo TV, Leo YouTube, Leo Facebook, Mtembei Facebook, Africa Facebook, zote ukiingia zinakutumia ujumbe hapo mahali unatutazamia. Ukiguza kati ya hizo links zote ambazo umetumiwa hapo, inakutuma StreamYard. Hapo StreamYard ukiingia unafanya nini? Unawasha mic, unawasha kamera, andika jina, alafu na click enter. Ukiclick enter unajiunga pamoja nasi. Tuna discuss some of the issues, some of the issues making headlines. Of course, tumediscuss kadha wa kadha, lakini tutazidi kuchambua mambo yanavyojiri. Asante kwa kujumuika nasi na kufanya hii show kuwa kali. Now, this is what also happened today.
Out to the Kenya Kwanza government over its response to the current El Nino rains, which continue to wreak havoc across many counties. Odinga, who was speaking in Kuria West during the burial ceremony of former ODM MCA Abedi Maroa, took issue with Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa's recent remarks directed at governors regarding mitigation measures put in place to curb the floods deluge being witnessed. And as Crispin Otieno now reports, a group of ODM leaders is asking the president to listen to the common wananchi on the high cost of living in the country.
As heavy rains continue to pound various parts of the country, with the northern and coastal regions bearing the brunt of the intense El Nino rains, ODM leader Raila Odinga has expressed his displeasure with the manner in which Kenya Kwanza is responding to Kenyans affected by the floods, saying it is time the government stepped up to alleviate the already dire situation and avert loss of lives.
Kenya nyingine watu wanakufa. Sasa wamesema watu 60 tayari wamekufa kwa mambo hii ya mafuriko. Lakini hawa jamaa wanalala kwa kazi.
Raila saying the government response to El Nino has been poor at best and that it was not handling the situation as it should, given early warnings that had been issued by the Met Department.
Yeye anakaa kule anajaribu kulaumu magavana, lakini magavana hawajapewa pesa ya kuangalia hii mambo kasa ya mafuriko. Pesa haiko. Jamaa wanalala kwa kazi. Ruto alisema ati hakuna El Nino. El Nino imekuja hajakuja.
The former premier insisted on alleged massive looting in the government, adding that it is time the Kenya Kwanza government stop blaming the former regime over the current economic hardships facing the country.
Hiyo mafuta wanaleta na wanatoa rushwa huko. Wanakula rushwa kwa hiyo mambo ya mafuta. Kwa hivyo hao jamaa wameshiba na kazi. Bado wanalaumu Uhuru, lakini Uhuru alienda nyumbani.
Sisi tuko nyuma ya baba, yeye ndo atatuongoza, yeye ndo atatuelekeza, na yeye ndo atatuambia kitu ya kufanya leo, kesho kutwa, hata siku zijazo tutafuata amri ya baba.
Wewe ambia rais, watu wa Migori County, watu wa eneo ya Kuria wanahitaji cost of living iende chini, wanahitaji ajira. Seme ama asiseme? Leo mnakimbia, leo mnataka baba waokoe. Baba hata waokoa kwa sasa. Wale walipiga kura kule, kwa sasa wakule kiburi yao polepole, alafu huko mbele huko mbele sasa utakuwa ushafinywa kidogo. Unajua kijiwe kikiingia ndani ya kiatu vile inafinya.
Now, leo Baba Raila Odinga says that serikali wameshindwa. Of course, I'll be playing the clip from the speech of the president today, trying to come out. And Kwanza, the first thing I saw that caught my attention easily, he paraded the entire government, Tuione, the chief of staffs, Nani, he named them, walikuwa hapo, for us to see them that, hey, sasa finally, governor imejitokeza, wacha tukuje to respond kwa El Nino. And El Nino haijaanza jana. We are in I think the 3rd, 4th week. Some people have already lost their lives. It's now, is it doing what it's supposed to do? And is Raila Odinga right when he's saying that this government has failed in combating the El Nino menace that is happening at the moment? What do you think?
Oh, my goodness. I've seen Raila in Migori, although we also have to say that he was on a political visit to go and market ODM and activate the membership registration. And it also sent a message to those people who've been making noise on our ears, on our televisions that we bought with our money, that they registered people from Migori and those guys have joined UDA. So it's quite evident that those people have not been registering because the crowd that I saw there and the kind of response that they had tells you that there was a massive frustration. So what I can say politically, Ruto is really giving ODM and the Azimio some easy work. He's making their work easy. And Azimio doesn't have a lot of work to do to try to prove to Kenyans that they were the better alternative than this government. The government itself is marketing and is giving them some points. And in that event, I was able to see so many people who've not been in ODM joining ODM, including the ones who left ODM after the nominations, like the Migori member of parliament, that is the women representative, Fatuma Full Network. So that's a great sign that the party is being built, the party is growing bigger and better, and this is a party that is going to lead this country into prosperity. And just from the words of Uchilo Ayako telling them that Raila is not going to fight for them today, but at least they need to feel how it feels when you make wrong choices, so that next time when you're given an opportunity to make choices, you're going to make the right choice. So this is also confirmed to the government that they've not done much. Yeah, they've not done much.
Okay, wewe ambao unatazama, do you agree with the sentiments from Raila Odinga that this government, number one, has failed, and number two is that President Ruto, President Ruto has done little to curb, or rather to help those affected by El Nino. In any case, it's today. It's today that we saw him read a press conference. It's today that we saw him parade the entire government just to show us that there is something that is being done. It's today that he called an urgent cabinet meeting. Now, and that's why I think we were asking the other day, what number needs to be affected for him to come out? I think probably our cries were heard. And this is William Ruto today, parading the government, parading
Kenya,
his troops.
Many roads
Everybody was there
across the country, especially in the northern part of Kenya, have been washed away. There are trucks stuck everywhere with food, means fuel that is now unable to reach the destinations in various parts of the country, especially in northern Kenya. Unfortunately, we have lost 70 people across Kenya because of these rains, and about 36,160 households have been displaced so far. The meteorological department tell us that these rains will continue, and therefore we need to prepare ourselves for the emergency situation that is going to ensue as a result. And taking into account the situation in the country now to do with our roads, the food situation, the water situation, the medicine delivery situation in Kenya. Cabinet will meet on Monday to deliberate on the various recommendations that have been made to ensure that the country is better prepared for the management of the situation that we see unfolding. Immediately, the National Disaster Operations Center has been rolled into place. Senior government officials will now move to the National Disaster Operations Center, including those from the various agencies, the military, the Ministry of Roads, the Council of Governors, and all the other stakeholders.
Now, when you look at this display, Mr. Leo, look at just that display. This, for me, this really stood out. You want to display that you are at work. He displayed everybody. Everybody was here. The chief inspector of police, the KDF guy was there. The spokesperson alikuwa hapo. Chill was there. Now, to me, this this is quite different from what Uhuru used to do. And in fact, it's not that he was reading the solution. He was reading Kenya watafanya on Monday na Kenya committee ishaundwa. It's just like what Murkomen did the other day when the roofs were leaking at the airport. Alisema ataunda tume. Ataunda tume of, I think, 11 guys to look into the issues and recommend measures to be taken. Same to this now again. I think it's the way of doing things in this government, where you create an atmosphere that people see as though you're working. All these people were here. Look at them. The leader wa governors ndo huyo Annahariu, wa Marsabit ndo huyo governor, leader wa Maji ndo huyo wa health. But there's someone missing here. Kiongozi wa CS wa land simuoni. But everyone was here. Basically everyone was here. To me, this one was also a message in itself. This was message on itself. Given that this, number one, it's not the team to work. This is the team that just came to propose that cabinet should meet urgently, as though cabinet never met last week or last week but one. Number two, the team, the response team, the disaster response team should be activated. Now, my question is this to you, Mr. Leo. He has already spoken of 70 people. Why didn't he speak when we were at 1, at 10, at 20, at 15? We had to wait until it's 70 people who have lost their lives. He has said 36,000 and some hundreds households. And household means we could be having one household with like 5 members. So we are talking of probably hundreds of thousands of people being displaced. Why didn't you speak when it was only 1,000, 2,000, 10,000? We had to wait till it's 36 for cabinet to meet, not even today, on Monday. Sorry, I might be submitting, but think about it. Was this just not another show, drama, nothing, nothing new? What do you think about all this, Mister?
Hello,
Mr. Leo?
okay, I hope you
Yeah.
can hear
What do you
me.
think about this?
Yeah. So
yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
that's okay. Good. You know, just from your question, maybe before I give you some answer, I would like to take some point of reference from the previous governments or from fellow governments. There's a time you will remember in the year 2020, around March, there were some speculations and there were news everywhere all over the world that there is corona, but we did not receive some instances. So it came on March 15th, 2020, when we received the first case, that is Corona 1 and Corona 2. No life was lost. We just received 2 Kenyans that contracted Corona. And the government was so swift to act. The measures were put in place. The schools were closed. The public offices, they put in some measures to ensure that people don't get crowded. That is when they started, and they organized everything. They did not wait for these people to die. They did not wait for other cases to be recorded. They acted immediately. But what is happening currently is opposite. You are told there is going to be El Nino. The news are coming that water has swept people. The first person dies, the second person dies, 10 people die, 7 people die. The president flies out of the country, comes back with the news.
Severally, actually, he has flown out of the country severally, not once. Yeah, severally.
What is so surprising, so demeaning, and it should tell you that this president doesn't value your property and your life. Instead of even saying that, okay, we as a government are sorry, we failed in this, he doesn't even make any single apology. I did watch that video from the start, and maybe somebody watching it might think it is a cutting and there's some place that have been intentional.
No, we have not edited it. We haven't edited it. That's how it started.
As a government, we are sorry. He's saying we've lost 70 people. These are individuals who've lost their lives. And over 35,000 people have been displaced. Their property have been destroyed. The government is telling you that the lorries are not able to distribute food.
Roads have been swept, my friend. Roads have already been swept.
It's just a week. By the time we were being given holiday to go and plant trees, already the floods were there. And these cabinet that you've seen being paraded there were given choppers. So what he was doing today was simple. He was simply telling you that, look, I have a bunch of cabinet secretaries who are incompetent, who cannot do anything. And whenever I'm outside the country, they have to wait for me to come and do a press conference, to come and convene a meeting to tell them what to do. They cannot think on their own. They cannot act on their own. They are people that wait for me to control them. And because I cannot control them using a remote while abroad, there are people that I control, not remotely. I control them manually. I have to push them. I have to arrange them. When you know how many people have contracted this? We've not had the cabinet secretary of health telling us that these floods that are coming, there's likely that people are going to have corona. People are cholera. There's likely that we're going to have some waterborne diseases like bilharzia and the increase in malaria. Have you seen mosquito nets being distributed? Have you seen any measure being taken? We are having the menace of transport. What measures have they taken to ensure that these roads that are poor are upgraded so that in case we are having rainfall, we don't have a situation where these bridges are sweeping people away? Nothing has been done totally. The Minister of Energy, when it rains, actually they need to work on their transformers and ensure that power is not interrupted. Nothing has been done. So we are having a government, they're just there to be seen. But we are not feeling them. Kenyans have not yet started
Now,
feeling them. We still see them.
I'm
Even seeing
sure,
them, we not see them.
Mr. Leo, I'm sure, Mr. Leo, the president receives daily briefs on the state of the nation, security and all. He receives daily briefs concerning what is happening all over the country. Is it now that it has hit him that 36,000 plus households have been affected by this El Nino? And actually, in any case, I'm sure the numbers are huge. That's just the statistics, you know. Why wait till now? Why wait? Why wait? This is a news that has been covered by other international. I think the other day we were able to play clips from other media stations away from Kenya. You know, this is something that has been captured away from our land. But the president, it is today, weeks later, that is issuing this press. In any case, it's still not an emergency, given that the cabinet didn't meet today. It has to wait till Monday to show the urgency. To show the urgency. Now, if you remember correctly, I think Corona hit on a weekend when it was first announced. I think it was on a weekend. And we saw everyone being called to State House and to Harambee House, and they had a meeting, and Kagwe said, now this is what needs to be done. CS Matiang'i. But today, man, what do you think? Is this president really prepared for disasters? Is the president prepared for disaster? Really? Are we prepared as a country?
Because the president is getting briefed every day and everything that is happening, and there are people who are being paid to do that. But now the issue is that we having a president who is not listening. Yes, he's being briefed, but he's not listening. I remember the Nairobi senator telling you that everybody has spoken to this government, but the government is not listening to the language that Kenyans are using. So it is upon Kenyans to devise a different language that the government can be able to listen to. So this is a government that doesn't listen to empty words. This is a government that is used to threats. They are government that threatens its citizens. So they also expect the citizens to threaten them back, and not only to threaten, but citizens should actualize their threats. So if you tell them that, okay, people are drowning, do this, they'll not do anything. But if you give them a notice that we are going on the streets, at least they'll start listening, but they'll not respond positively. They'll respond by bringing the police to brutalize you. So that is how the government that we're having is listening. So we need to come up with different ways of communicating. This kind of communication whereby we speak, you write memorandums, you call some bipartisan talks and sit in a certain room, take tea and discuss issues and call Kenyans to come and present their things, including Waititu and everything. Then at the end of the day, they'll have to put those papers down and say, okay, these guys are finished. We've spent a lot of money in doing all this exercise. That is the end of it. So the government that we have currently cannot listen to words. They are government that can maybe listen to actions. But there is nobody in this country currently that can act. We have cowards. We have people who cannot take action.
There is another gimmick that I'm almost certain that very soon it will come into play. That game of a pay bill number. I'm not calling it a game with no respect to the affected victims. It's because I remember vividly of how when this government came into play, we had drought, right? You remember Gachagua unveiling a pay bill? You remember unveiling a pay bill? You remember the cabinet saying we will not receive our first salary because we want to use all that money to channel it to help people not to die of hunger. But today, there's no pay bill. I'm sure maybe it will come very soon. I don't want to be a prophet. Two, no cabinet secretary today wants to come on and say, as we did last time fighting hunger, let us now come together now as a cabinet, as we did. Because if you remember vividly, they didn't receive their first pay. If you remember back then, they did not receive their fast pay because we are fighting hunger.
How sure
Today,
are you they
we
did
are
this?
fighting
Yes, I just want to correct you on
Yes, sir.
that. They created
Yeah.
a perception that they did not receive their first pay, but nobody confirmed to us that that money was not deposited, because I know the money left the exchequer as part of their salary. So if they did not receive this salary, nobody told us that, okay, this salary was not deposited. Instead, it was deposited in this account and it did A and B. It is just like you coming here and telling me that, you see, this month I'll not be receiving my salary. I'll only believe it when you come and tell me, okay, I did not receive my salary. I sent it to X or I sent it to Y. Then the Y can also confirm that instead, Jack sent me this money. So that was just some populist declaration to create a perception that these people did not receive their salary. And that is a white lie. There is no way a public servant will fail to get that salary. Maybe they can tell us that they received the salary and in person donated it. If I employ you today and we sign an agreement, I'll be wiring some money at the end of the month. I have to wire it. If I need it, otherwise, you'll have to remove it and give it back to me so that it doesn't initiate some legal actions. In case I fire you, you'd say, okay, this month you did not pay me. So there's nothing like the cabinet secretaries did not receive their salary. They received their salaries. If they did not receive, where did the money go to? Well, we told nothing happened.
Now remember, during Uhuru's time, there was still the same. We had a COVID account where the chairperson, the lady who now heads the Kenya breweries and all, I remember she would come and table, this is the money we have collected this far. This is how it has been utilized. This is what it's doing. Now, here, Gachagua, we really don't have records. Maybe it's there, but I'm yet to come across such, where we get to find out that the money that was contributed during drought, before now we even talk of now this flooding, that this is how it was spent, because the much he came out to say is there was no Kenyan who died of hunger. That's the best he came out to say. He never told us how much was collected eventually, how it was spent, and eventually what even remained and what came of it. All we know is we gave money. I don't know, some Kenyans even protested that pay bill, because I remember it was launched by the DP there. Now, this time round, I'm sure probably a pay bill will be created. And I really pray it should come from Red Cross. It should not come from the government, because as it is, if it has failed to really act on this issue as an emergency, it should not come out now and act as though now it's when it needs money. Because in any case, Gachagua came out clearly and said there's no money in any case. There's no money, but there is money for them to fly out and go take walks in the morning in other countries. I saw him taking a walk in a different country. I even ask myself, some of us go to for workouts and all. Should we all of us be posting ourselves working out? Why is it news, or why is it significant for us seeing Gachagua taking a morning walk in the morning in the hills, where while back home people are drowning? How is it that news and we're not focusing on the germane issues, especially like floodings and all? Why is it that we only focus on funny stuff, right? To now focus on things that don't add value and let out things that really ought to be paid close attention to? And that's why I find it even interesting that the president had time to fly out of the country severally to Germany to look for work for people, what after my jobs, as he said. And then unfortunately, wow, good news, eh? Finally, how many goals have we scored? Let me confirm for you. Oh, but before I lose my trail of thought, that he was out of the country, but didn't find time to convene cabinet as an urgent matter, to create a way to show people that he really cares, only to come out today and parade his troops really, to me, it's doing little too late. What do you think? Sorry, I'm at times get emotional when I see some behaviors. What do you think, sir?
I think the response that we are having is really slow. It's kind of a response to show that somebody doesn't care. Somebody listens but doesn't care. And it's so unfortunate that the same person is a Christian, and somewhere in the book of Exodus, when the Israelites were suffering in Egypt, and they were taking their cries to God through Moses, and God will tell Moses that I have listened. When God called Moses actually on the bush, he told him that, look, Moses, I've listened to my people's cries and I am concerned. But in our case, the president have listened to Kenyans, but he's not concerned. So that is where the difference is. There's listening and getting concerned, even if you don't do something urgently, but there's some initiative that you're making that can try to communicate and tell people that something is happening. But now this is somebody who is listening, but is not concerned. So that is how it is. The response system is really poor. And this thing to do with the disaster management and response is not a thing that you need to form a committee. It is a department under the Ministry of Interior and National Coordination. Under that ministry, there is a department specifically for disaster management and response coordination. So anything happens in this country that is disastrous, like what has happened now, it calls for the ministry in charge, that is Kindiki, who should bring his house in order and ensure that the people in charge in that department have given the necessary response. And the response that we needed currently was to ensure that people are evacuated, food reaches these people. There is food. Red Cross is there. They're providing food, but the problem, they cannot be able to access the place. Red Cross doesn't own these aircrafts. They don't have the helicopters, but the police do. They are under the Ministry of Interior. So if you hear somebody telling you that these are responsibility of the governors, and yet no county government has got helicopters, these things lies with the national government. So these aeroplanes that they're using to move around the country to try and tell us what they're planning to do and what they promised to do, and to thank people for not voting Raila Odinga, they should use them to move around the country distributing food and getting people out of the waterlogged places. But they failed to do that. They are comfortably watching Kenyans dying helplessly because we cannot help ourselves. The citizens over there have got nothing to do, but they just have to die. And I think some people are happy to lose lives because sometimes they do say it's better maybe than suffering. I was reading some Greek philosopher who once said that, you see, the strong people they'll do what they can do, but the weak will have to suffer what they must suffer. So, you know, as the poor Kenyans, they must suffer. But the strong people like the William Ruto, they will have to do what they can do. So that is the situation that we're having in this country.
Now, thank you wewe ambao unatazama. Asante sana. We cannot even thank you enough. Thank you for tuning in and making this your #1 channel. Hii ni show ambayo imefanyika kubwa kwa sababu ya wewe kutune in. Kila inapotimia midaa ya saa 4 unajiunga nasi hapa kwa show, na tunafanya kitu kali. Tunafanya show iwe fiti, tunafanya show iwe ya kupendeza. Namuona Chwea Ibra anasema ninawapata vizuri, asante sana. Good year, I see you. Recho Kanji, I see you. I see Jacob Mahindu amecomment hapo kwa comment section. You can participate as well by commenting hapo kwa comment section and participating live. You can join us live, tuko live on studio. Pia wewe ambaye una like hii video, asante sana. Kama nani ambaye amelike offline kwa Mboka amelike hii video, asanteni sana kwa kulike hii video. Asante Kipiegon KA, thank you for liking hii video. Henrik Biwot, I think I'm reading it correct. Henrik Biwot, asante sana kwa kulike hii video. video. Namuona Nduko amelike hii video. Jacob Mahindu, asante sana. Ayub Masinde, asante sana. Honorable members, jamaa anajita hivyo, asante sana kwa kulike hii video. Thank you so much for liking the video. Thank you jamaa anajita Vincent Kemani, thank you so very much. Wafula Emmanuel, asante sana. Vincent Apande, asante sana. Asanteni sana. You guys are just but amazing. This show is courtesy of Afric TV, has been made possible through Afric TV. Subscribe to Afric TV. Be a member of Afric TV. Upper Afric TV, we got you. We are unlocking African stories. Above all, subscribing to Afric TV guarantees you good prizes. You are about to win good prizes. Wewe ambaye una subscribe, wewe ambaye una subscribe, siseme haukuambiwa, subscribe. When the list will be out, may your name be there, yeah? There are great hampers to be won simply by subscribing to Afric TV. We shall be awarding our lucky subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing and choosing Afric TV. Afric TV, your number one online show. Tuko hapa. Asante sana. Let's continue. Raila Odinga has called out the government, especially regarding Gachagua, that his behavior is unbecoming, because there is no way you throw stones to people who are already down. Counties are already struggling, some roads have been swept away, some bridges have been destroyed, some homes have been destroyed. I don't want to play those videos today, but you remember the videos I played the other day. You can follow us, and actually you can watch the show that we had previously and see the footages that we played of people whose lives have been interrupted because of the floods and all. But the deputy president, he came out as though he's arrogant, too proud, and as though it's almost our fault that it is raining heavily. What do you see playing out with this now constant back and forth between Raila Odinga and Gachagua? Because I'm sure when Gachagua will come back, he will definitely have a response for Raila Odinga. What do you think will be the end of that game? Leo?
Yes, sorry, did I get you well? You're saying, what do you think?
What do you think will be the end game of that? Because I'm almost certain that when Gachagua will be back, he will have a response for Raila Odinga, because today Raila Odinga had a way of throwing jabs at him because of how he responded to the governors. So of course you'll have a response as well. But do you think it was right for Raila Odinga to call out Gachagua for his unbecoming behavior?
Raila was very right to call out anything that he feels that is not right, because he speaks for millions of Kenyans who believed in him. Going by the IBC results, there are over 6 million Kenyans, almost 7 million Kenyans who believed in him and voted for him. So he holds brief for these people. He represents them and he can speak on their behalf. But who stands to lose in that kind of maybe responses regarding Gachagua? He is the current deputy president. Raila is nowhere in this government. So the more he takes time responding to Raila, the more he shows how thick he is. Because those people who do fishing, they normally say, if you want to catch the fish, you have to stir the waters. So when you start the waters, they'll have to start fighting themselves. Then you'll have an opportunity, some greater opportunity to fish without some problems. So when Raila speaks and they get to respond to him, they are trying to give him some attention, and through that attention, his popularity increases. And the best way that maybe you can ensure that Raila is not in the scene or is not part of the discussion is when you avoid him and you don't respond to him, you don't talk about him totally. But the mistake that William Ruto and his team did, though they promised their supporters and these people who believed in them that once you vote them, they are going to ensure that they take Raila to Bondo. And in taking Raila to Bondo, they meant that they are going to ensure that he doesn't come out actively in politics. His politics is going to end and he's instead going to rest. But they failed to do that. Maybe they would have seek some advice. Somebody would have told them that the only way to take Raila to Bondo is to avoid him. Don't give him attention. Don't respond to him. Don't discuss him. But the moment you discuss Raila, you give him attention, everybody will be talking about Raila. If you respond to Raila, every news or every media house will have to give that report, and everybody will want to know what is it that you said about Raila. And through that, you are still giving him some relevance and making him more popular, and you are keeping him in the game. So that one tells you, if things continue the way they are, then don't get surprised in 2027 if maybe some sensible polls are done, and they'll turn out that Raila still have got a chance of contesting. But if you don't keep him active, it will be easy to convince somebody that, okay, we don't need, we need somebody else to contest against William Ruto or to take the mantle. But if you keep him busy, the more he gets active, the more he appears young and the more he appears energetic, and people see some sense in what he says compared to the people around him. But the moment he's not talking, at least somebody else will get that relevance and will start seeing sense in some alternative voices. So let them keep on building him. But Raila is also, he doesn't grow old. I don't know why. He keeps on growing young. So we have to thank people like Gachagua, who will always make him some point of reference. You know, ile kisu natumia kuna mwingine hushinda kuwa kali.
Okay, now there's another matter I want us to tackle, and you kind of had spoken about it. It's about the committee, the national, they're calling it what, the National Dialogue blah 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 committee. Now this this committee has issued its report, rather the final report is out, and it is interesting that one of the things that Azimio, now let me now address Azimio now. One of the things that Azimio really fought for is missing in that document, and that is the cost of living. The cost of living, they said it will feature. Unfortunately, it hasn't, or rather, it is missing in that document. And ladies and gentlemen, I wish to play this so that you hear what is present in that document.
Its report, where it has recommended a number of austerity measures, including all government institutions to cut their travel budgets by 50%, and a downward review of all state and public officers' allowances by 30%. The committee, however, failed to agree on reduction on the fuel levy from 16% to 8%, as well as the scrapping of the housing levy. The committee has also recommended the establishment of offices of Leader of Official Opposition, as well as the office of the Prime Minister.
NADCO recommends that all arms of government shall reduce their travel budgets by 50%, and that the Salaries and Remuneration Commission review daily subsistence allowances for state and public officers with a view to reducing by 30%. B, NADCO recommends the Minister of Energy and Petroleum, in liaison with the National Treasury, to reduce the road maintenance levy and the anti-adulteration levy by 5 shillings and 3 shillings per litre, respectively. The committee was unable to reach a consensus on a number of other proposals on the matter of cost of living, including the reduction of VAT on fuel from 16% to 8%, and scrapping the housing levy. These twin issues are contained in the Finance Act 2023, I beg your pardon.
The report that we are presenting to the nation today is a product of compromises forged in the crucible of shared sacrifice and unwavering patriotism. It signifies a commitment to forging a path forward that embraces inclusivity, justice, and progress for all Kenyans. Let us solemnly pledge to uphold the values of brotherhood and sisterhood.
Now, Leo, it's here, here. I refuse to speak on any side. I refuse to speak of Kenya Kwanza or Azimio, because there are two things that have come out, and one, I am equally disappointed because this is a replica of BBI. One, the position of Prime Cabinet Secretary has now, they want it to be confirmed. This is what they're coming out with. And the official leader of opposition, they want him to be confirmed. That is what they have tabled as their report. Now, according to you, Leo, what do you make of that report? Even before I even give my sentiments, and what do you make of that report?
Okay, I think somebody is joining. He should join with this video. We don't want to speak to strangers. Okay. When I look at that report, I can just say it's wasted Kenyan time and the taxpayers' money, because most of the things that have been agreed on that report are things that were obvious, and they are things that are not beneficial to the common mwananchi. And the most controversial things, or the most things that were of interest of the common mwananchi, have not been agreed to. I remember the main thing that led to this talk was the demonstrations, and the major people who were participating in the demonstration were the common mwananchi, not the leaders. So the only thing that made people to leave their houses to go and demonstrate was the cost of the living. So the other things, like the office of the prime minister and the office of the official opposition leader, weren't concerned to that person who stays in Kibra, or that person who stays in Ruaraka, Korokocho, Githogoro, or Majengo in Busia. The only thing that was concerned to them was the price of unga, which is the meal that is consumed by majority of Kenyans. The issue of the petroleum development levy, I think it's around 5 shillings per liter, and it used to be about 3 shillings per liter. So these are some of the things that sugar-coated the demonstrations and attracted most of the people to go on the streets. So when people heard that there's going to be a bipartisan talk, the most thing that made Kenyans try to see that there's some hope in this talks. Remember, people did not want this talk, they wanted to continue talking on the streets. So the only thing that made them hold their horses and thinking that there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel was when Azimio said that in this talk we have to discuss the cost of living. And they gave their proposal that one of the things that should be done is that they cut on the travel expenses. There's something that hasn't happened. Number two, they're supposed to do a repeal of the house levy, or that tax that people are taxed for the affordable housing, and also to remove the petroleum development levy. This amount that people do pay, whether you have a car or you don't have a car, though people ignorantly pay it without questioning. And if you look at some of the recommendations that the majority side gave, is that when it comes to the matter of this taxation, doing away with the 2023 Finance Act, which is now a law, what they propose is that in February, they normally do a tax review. So they should wait up to February to do a tax review. These are some delaying tactics. By the time it reaches February, when you do a tax review, it will be practically impossible to do away with this levy when people would have contributed for like 4 months. So how do you say that we want to do away with this levy? What will you do to the people who contributed? You know, once the government takes money, it is non-refundable. The government will never refund you. And for those people who've been paying taxes and they want some tax refunds, it's normally practically impossible to get tax refunds in Kenya. In developed countries like those who stay in US and Australia and most parts of Europe, they get some tax refunds. But in Kenya, it is practically impossible. You'll see it in figures in computer, but you'll never redeem it in your pocket. Okay. So they are trying to delay us so that we wait for February, wait for the tax review that is going to be done in February. And that is some kind of conmanship. That one won't happen. They've achieved personally to come up with this position for the opposition and the position of the leader of the prime cabinet. Wamesha faulu kutafutia Mudavadi kazi na hii ingine ya opposition sijui wanatafutia nani. The tricky part of it that this report is supposed to be tabled in both houses for the MPs and the senators to deliberate on it, to either confirm it the way it has been presented or make some changes, like they're going to open it for discussion. You know the parliament that you're having. So in either way, Azimio are the losers in this thing, because had they said that what has been discussed there is final, they would have talked of win-win situation. This thing is going to the parliament. And but the parliament is going to have the final say. So,
probably I might disagree with you.
Yes.
I might disagree with you in several aspects. Number one, think about it. Kalonzo Musyoka was present reading that report. If truly Azimio was a loser in this, they ought to have boycotted this. They ought to have said, we don't agree with the report. Just like they said, we don't agree with the elections. You know, they ought to have said, we don't agree with this report. They should have boycotted the reading of the
listen, Jackson, you didn't take time to listen to me.
Just a moment.
You didn't listen to me
for a
finish.
moment. I've listened to you. Allow me to say this first before I listen to you. Remember, Kioni led the other team that was crafting the report. So at what point do you want to say Azimio is a loser in this? Of course, I agree with you also to some extent that most of what Kenya Kwanza raised as issues have sailed through. They wanted the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. That one has been confirmed in the report. They wanted the position of the official leader. That one has been confirmed in the report. I'm sure also as well the gender card has also been confirmed in the report. What has lost in this report is the issues that we lost our lives, most of us who went for maandamano, most of us who were tear gassed, most of us who put sufurias on our heads, most of us who said Hakietu and all. Most of us have lost, actually all of us who went out, all of us, Kenya Kwanza, who went out.
No,
and
before we come to that point,
listen,
before we come to that point, I want you to get it. When people had the first meeting, they had to come up with their agendas for the discussion. And let's say, for example, each side came up with 5 agendas. That is just an example, for instance. I'm not certain. And out of the 5 agendas, I came up with my 5 agendas. You came up with your 5 agendas. And in the process of discussion, all your 5 agendas have been agreed
I've gone through
unanimously. Then secondly, my agendas, the agendas that are in that are contended, the ones that we've not come into a mutual agreement are mine. So do you still consider me a winner? That aside, listen, when you want to slaughter a cow, you feed it up to the last minute that you're taking it to the slaughter. The cow will only realize that I'm being slaughtered the moment you take the knife and put it on the neck. And the moment of taking the knife that we, the Azimio, the moment they're taking the knife and putting it on our neck is when they're taking this thing to the parliament. Yes, at the bipartisan talk, they might have gotten some win-win situation, but now in parliament, we are having the same parliament, the same individuals. They are not going to change. They are going to vote, and the parliament has got the power to approve it the way it is or make some changes. I want to give you a good case study. The impeachment of the deputy governor of Siaya. The select committee made a recommendation, and in the recommendation, they disagreed slightly on some issues, but majority agreed that the deputy governor violated some constitutional mandate, and the deputy governor was supposed to be impeached. Then when it was now brought back to the House did not approve it. They had to open it, and they had now to redo it afresh, and they overturned that. So the same is going to happen in the House. So those things, the final decision is going to be made in the parliament, and having known the kind of the parliament that we have, Me, the only advice that I can advise is that the Azimio should disassociate with themselves with that report. They should not allow that report to be tabled in Parliament to save them from a pain and agony. And if it is a maandamano or otherwise, then they should start it as early as now, because once it is taken to Parliament, and the Parliament will have to decide otherwise whether we will have to go for maandamano. Parliament is a legal institution. Watasema, Parliament's role is to make laws. So Parliament already would have made decision. Mudavadi atakuwa pale legally. Hiyo ni opposition mtakatana, bado watakuja wachagulie mtu na wawekee pale. So that is what I mean. I can see someone there, though they lost some four.
Now, allow me to appreciate all of you watching us. Asante sana. This is Africa TV. Here we keep it real. We keep it quite entertaining for you. We bring you the issues as they unfold. Asante sana wewe ambao una participate kwa comment section. Thank you very much. Thank you as well to those of us who are liking the video and subscribing to Africa 24. I see my brother Leo is with me, my good friend Kenya Rebel Kondani, na pia mzalendo pia amejaja. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a great show and we are discussing so many issues. So stick around, let us sail through together. Now, I want to bring in these new guys who have joined us. I don't know, I think I'll start from the last topic we have discussed. I begin with you, Mr. Kenya Rebel. The report is out, and this is nothing different from what we had in BBI. It has some sweeteners in it. One of the sweeteners is that they should reduce their travel allowances, or rather they're traveling for 50%, which the president had already said before. And among many other funny things therein. But the Jamaa issues, the real concern of Mwananchi, the Wanjiko down there, the issues concerning that Wanjiko, the reason alikula tear gas, the reason Ali participate kwa maandamano, I don't think have been addressed. I don't think Mwananchi alienda so that apate a prime minister. I don't think Mwananchi aliandamana so as to get the office of the official leader of the opposition. I don't think those were the reasons we went and took to the streets. Now, I want to ask you this. Is this a failed report already? Because in any case, it will still come back to Wanjiko to decide, because change in the structure of governance, Wanjiko has the last say. Parliament, as much as it will debate and all, eventually it will come to you and I. Despite us suffering now with floods and lacking money, as Gachagua said, to support governors and counties to help mitigate the struggles in this, do I call it a pandemic or whatever, of floods? Do we really need now to change the constitution so as to have the office of the prime cabinet secretary, the office of the official leader of opposition? How will that help someone in Marsabit who today is sleeping underwater or on water or walking on water kwa sababu ya floods? How will it help them there in Marsabit, there in Mombasa County, there in Wajir? How will it help us? How? If you can help me analyze that report, Mr. Kenya Rebel.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. If you can adjust your screen so you stop cutting your face by half, tilt it slightly up. Very good. Very.
You know, I have to hold it like this. Ama wacha niweke kwa nyuma huko ndio nione vizuri. Najua niko mbali kidogo. Tafadhali Jake, if you start these stories, I'll just go to bed right now.
But go ahead. Pole sana. But sisi kama Arsenali, we are happy to be on top of the table. Kama kawa, tunashukuru sana.
Muliponea chupu.
Haina shida, lakini kwa sasa tunaongoza ligi na tunashukuru Mungu. But go ahead.
Haya, uchokozi umeanza mapema. But anyway, Jakes, there's something I want to say today. You know, I see the headline ya mada, usijui Ruto ni mwizi Sugu. But I think now, as Kenyans, we should start looking at one part of the government. Because remember, Ruto is the executive, Sindio, head of the executive branch of government. Now, let's look at these members of parliament. And let's also look at the opposition, because opposition is part of government, even though they're the part of the legislative body. So what I'm trying to say is, number one, let's not tuache hii mambo ya sasa tunaangalia tu Ruto, ati Ruto ni mwizi, Ruto is this and that and that and that and that. Let us look at government as a whole. The people we donated this power to advance our interest. Okay? So the buck does not even stop with Ruto only. Let us also look at this opposition, because if Ruto fails, we expect the opposition to check the person who's ruling so that they can advance our interest. But it seems that we are only looking at Ruto. The opposition, the only thing they're doing is what? They're having this NADCO, talks. So they can create positions for themselves so they can be part of the executive. Unaona? That's number one. So to answer your question, you're very right. Number one, I don't know why did they have to have this talk outside the parliament? That's the first question we should ask ourselves. All these issues that they're talking about, it can be done in the parliament directly. You don't need the Kalonzo Musyokas to start telling us about the cost of living and all this nonsense, okay?
That's simple. Parliament is a market. The parliament of 350 members, that is a market, like a political rally. So you can't have a talk in a market.
Leo, allow him to finish.
No,
ahead.
It's okay. He's saying it's a market. Okay, you can call it a market. But guess what, Leo? They are the legislative body of government. That's where they make laws. Okay? So you, as Mwananchi, if you feel like
in any case, whether a market or not, the final report will be taken to them. So it doesn't matter whether a market or not, the final report will have their say.
Thank you. That's why I'm saying these talks we shouldn't even have an extra parliamentary talk. The talk that they're talking about should be happening and debated in the parliament, in the legislative body. People like Alonso, who are not elected officials, have no business sitting in this discussing matters that we care about. They are not holding any public position. Okay, that's why I'm saying, because they're saying this is a national dialogue. It's not a national dialogue. This is a dialogue between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza. Some of us are not members of Azimio or Kenya Kwanza. Where does that leave us? We're not included in this dialogue. Okay, but we are also Kenyans. So we reject that report even before they come up with it. It's because it doesn't advance our interest. It only advances the interest of who? Members of Kenya Kwanza and members of Azimio. It is not for Kenyans. So we reject that. Okay? So
because to even add to what you're saying, if you remember correctly, the elections were very clear. We had a whole half of registered electorate who chose not to participate in the elections. A whole half who said we are not for Azimio, neither are we for Kenya Kwanza. So you are right there, and I agree with you totally that there is a very huge statement that says half of the registered voters who have a say, because they are already 18, they are registered voters, they chose not to participate, or rather they chose to keep off. Actually, they voted by saying, we don't agree with the names that were presented to us. Either we don't agree with Ruto or we don't agree with Raila Odinga. They chose to stay away because in parliament, there's that option of abstaining, right? Now then they abstained, right? So they still voted and they count. And I agree with you, they were not represented in these talks. Correct. Go ahead. Sorry, I just felt I needed to punch that one in because I'm sure Leo as well will want to punch you out of it as well. But go ahead.
No, don't worry. These Arsenal people like Leo, I want to deal with them perpendicularly today. But
But they are on
No,
top
but
of the league. But go ahead.
but I like Leo. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to say is this. Now what we should do as wananchi, let's exercise our powers as citizens. Let's start holding our representatives accountable. We can all agree, whether you're independent, whether you're Azimio, whether you're Kenya Kwanza, we all agree that the trajectory in which this country is going is bad. Ruto is leading us into a bad place. So what can we do about it? Okay, our representative. Let us not have this. That's why the other day I made this point. It is very funny that when it was time to pass this finance bill in the parliament, the Azimio MPs absconded from voting. Then after the bill was passed, they come and complain about it while they had the power to reject it, to vote to Kuninio. Okay, that's the issues I'm talking about. Let us put pressure on our representative. Hii nini onadiko hii report ya kina Kalonzo ambao they've been eating millions by sitting there talking in Boma Center for I don't know how many months. Okay, it will not help us. Jake, you raised a very nice point when you said the people that went and were tear gassed, shot to death. Okay, there's nothing in the agenda which says that. Can we just pay the families of the people who suffered, lost their lives during this Nino? The only thing they're talking about is the position of Nino. And that, to just correct Leo, this thing will not be, you cannot change the constitution simply by going to the parliament. We have to have a plebiscite vote, which means we have to have a referendum if you want to change the constitution. So no, let it be brought to the parliament. Yes. Yeah, so this thing is...
There are things that can be changed by a parliament, but when it comes to structure of governance, the presidency, blah, 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 that one, because that one touches money directly, that one we have to have a referendum.
Which is the constitution. You have to go back to the... But anyway, that's the whole point. I think, Jake, you're making the same point I was making, and I don't know if Leo agrees or disagrees. This is why I say, Leo, just to kuwaruza kidogo, this is why I have an issue with Azimio. Kila siku mnapiga makelele, Ruto is doing this, sijui ana travel hapa, sijui anafanya hivi, sijui anafanya hivi, and you have the power to clip his authority. Awache kufanya hizi vitu. Instead, nyinyi mna complain ati Kenya mbaya, sijui nini. Ruto has 5 years to do this.
Number two, let me still wacha nikusaidia kupunch vizuri leo. Let me ask you, why is it there is no single Azimio MP who has tabled a motion for impeachment for the president because they feel the president is heading this country in the wrong direction? Why? Let's say it has lacked support, it has lacked only Azimio guys who supported it, it only had 2 votes, only 2 or even 1 ya mwenye ametable hiyo motion. Why is it that no Azimio MP lacks the balls, if I can use those words?
Mr. Jakes, I believe most of you here, if not all of you, because of some historical reasons, are Christians, not because of spiritual reasons. Because of historical reasons, most of you are Christians, and if you are Christians, you must be good students of Bible and the book of Ecclesiastes. And if you read even some parts of the wise writings of King Solomon and this polygamous king, it reminds you that it is foolishness to chase against the wind. You know the threshold that is needed to to impeach a president in this country. You know the threshold. It is not a kid's job. So once you are convinced in your mind, based on psychophancy that we have in this country, based on psychophancy, based on experience, you can't waste time drafting something to go and chase the wind.
That's your response. Now let me respond to you with a good book. Let me respond to you with the good book. The good book says like this: When the righteous prosper, the city rejoices. And when the wicked perish, let us shout for joy. I think it will be a resounding joy when we see the wicked perish. Sorry, I'm even almost becoming religious. Japolo is in the house as well. Unfortunately, Diana is gone. Now, the wickedness that we are having, are we doing ourselves any justice by keeping quiet? By saying we are chasing after the wind for not filing a motion to impeach the president simply because he has failed on his mandate, simply because we lack probably the numbers? Don't you think Wananchi will support the idea? You know, at times you normally say you speak for the Wananchi, which is very fine. Why not stand alone and be with Wananchi? Sisi tukubak, we support your idea. Let the idea fail in parliament, but at least there was an effort. At least there was an attempt. But failing to do something, folding your hands, does not mean, or rather does not indicate that you're doing so. In any case, we're just classifying you together, that both you and Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, you are just a bunch of the same thing, only acting different to the crowd, but you are just the same. You are just the same. Right now, you're bringing a report only to further your agenda. This prime cabinet secretary furthers your agenda as Azimio, because tomorrow, when you pick someone and give him that post, it will already be a constitutional post. When you have an oppositional leader, whether Kalonzo or whoever, it will already be a constitutional post. So it is already your agenda. But you want to come back, right, and act to the masses how good you are, how you're speaking to us or for us, or that, oh, you see, Ruto is doing, oh, you see, Ruto is stealing, oh, you see, really? Sorry, I almost even sound like a Kenya Kwanza affiliate member. But at what point will we see Azimio, despite the lack of numbers, coming out strong and showcasing its anti-government crusade in parliament, not by skiving meetings, by skiving parliament, by skiving when when we have serious motions, they skive. They are not there. They are not there to be seen, so that the hazard cannot record their sentiments. Why? So, Leo, please tell me, before you quote the scriptures of chasing after the wind, show us an attempt. Show us an attempt. Leo is running away. Oh, sorry. I'm
It's okay.
I
You
know
shall
you'll be
come
back.
back.
I know you'll be back. But what do you think of what I'm saying, Mr. Kenya Rebel? Sorry,
You
I
are
just
right.
felt I needed to.
You're right. You're very right. These people. That's why I say there's another channel, our sister channel. People get there, but if you listen, all they do is point out what Ruto is doing wrong. This is this, and try to speculate what Baba will be doing. Maybe Baba is keeping quiet so he can do this. But it's all about complaining about what Ruto is doing every day. But like you say, these people have the power to do something. We, the Wananchi, put pressure on these people so they can force Ruto to either, we can make laws so we can stop him from abusing power if he's really abusing power. Now, let us not get anything twisted. There's a difference between failing to deliver on your policies, and also there's a difference in whether you're breaking the law. Where did Ruto break the law? All he's doing is breaking promises and doing things. He hasn't broken the law. But if he breaks the law, again, we can have a vote of no confidence on him and remove him to this point where they're saying that Ruto is buying MPs. Let's look at Azimio. Is Ruto richer than the Kenyatta family? Is Ruto richer than Raila Odinga? Is Ruto richer than the Moi family? These are people who are in Azimio. Kenyatta family and Moi family and Odinga family can buy Ruto 10 times You mean they cannot buy some of these Azimio, some of these Nino, Wasingishu, I don't know, whatever, not even Wasingishu. What am I saying? The Azimio, Nino. Now, I told them the other day, even the Azimio, Nino, the Kenya Kwanza MPs, like Wakina Dismas Barasa or whatever, they're also saying, Nino, cost of living is, if it doesn't come down, watavuka mpaka. Why can't Azimio use people like Dismas Baraza, okay? Bring them to your fold. Come up with a legislation that legislates against some of the policies that Ruto is Nino. Why can't you join hands with that instead of calling them Tugege and calling them all these names? You should be smart. But we are here complaining about what Ruto is doing every day.
Kenya revolution.
Yes, sir.
I like the part that you've answered yourself concerning what Ruto is doing being legal or illegal, and you said what Ruto does is within the law. You're a student of history, and you'll remember that everything that Hitler did, all those kind of Holocaust and everything that Hitler did, everything that he did was legal. True or false?
False. Not everything that he did was legal, but go ahead.
No, maybe based on your perception, but legally, if you look at the laws that were there, he ensured that all these things had some legal framework. That is why Ruto is also a smart politician.
No. Leo, calm down. Leo, before you go on, there's nothing legal about putting thousands of Jews in a torture chamber and gassing them to death. What's so legal about that, my friend?
All right, I'll not engage in that. I live in a country where they still have death sentence. They sentence you to death. They tie you on a tree, cover you, and you know that day you're going to die, and they shoot you. I've witnessed it, not once, not twice. So I've seen it. Though it's so traumatizing, but I've seen it. It happens.
The point I was making, Leo, if I may cut, I was just saying that I was just disabusing you of this notion that everything Hitler did was within the legal framework. No, it wasn't. It was illegal. That's why I say the Jews that he put in the torture chamber and gassed them to death, that was an illegal act. They were not put through courts and prosecuted for any crimes that they committed. He just took them and rounded them up and killed them. That's the point I'm making. But go ahead with the submission.
All right. Thank you. Ruto is a wise and cunning politician. When he wanted to overtax you, he really ensured that the Finance Act 2023 included most of the things that will inflict pain on you. But he knew when maybe he just woke up and said, Uhuru used to wake up and make some executive orders. So the first thing, he had to mobilize his Tugeges, though you don't want us to use that name, I'm sorry. After mobilizing them, he ensured that this thing was passed and it became a law. So whenever you stand in a political rally or you stand and start opposing that you see EQ2 tax inakuwa mingi, he'll tell you it is your MPs who passed it. Right now, he's trying to propose, I think, some percentage to be deducted from every worker. We've also had things like the Hustler Fund. You know how they were rushed and deliberated in Parliament. Actually, most people don't know that this Hustler Fund, the issue was taken to Parliament, though a lot of money has been lost there. So what I also have to agree is that it is not only the Azimio MPs, it is Kenyans at large that have failed in electing responsible leaders who know their role. We've reached a point whereby we elect people based on the political waves and based on our stomachs. That is what they give us in form of bribes. If you look at 70% of the members of parliament that we have in the parliament currently, they don't know their work. And you'll barely have some MPs even attend the sessions in parliament. They just go there as a legal matter to ensure that they don't find themselves maybe losing the seat because of absenteeism. They will either go there if there's something that they've been whipped to go and vote for or vote against, or they will go there to maintain that attendance so that they marked present. But they don't take it as an obligation that as an MP, your first role that defines your name is to legislate, which is to make laws and amend laws. So if you look at laws that have been made or amended on their names, few of them are there. Few of them are in parliament. They have their side businesses. They will always pass there. It is like a transit. So that is the problem that we're having as a country. It is not only in Azimio, though there are some quite MPs that you can name from the side of Azimio. There are MPs that even you don't hear of them talking of something that are making sense. They will only talk when there's things that are humorous in parliament, like exchange on such kind of issues. So the country has really failed, and the parliament has lost its image. So even when you're telling me that the bipartisan talk was supposed to be taken to parliament, that was a joke. Maybe after having some talks elsewhere, like at the Bomas, now if they come back to parliament, it would make some sense, because those guys are now going to give them the structures, and they are now going to direct and control their discussion. So if they were left to discuss, I don't think they will even manage to come up with the agendas. But now the report is going to like control them. It is a manual that they are going to work on that manual. They either change it or agree with it. That is it. But if you left the entire thing to be concepted in parliament, then we would not move anywhere. We don't have a parliament.
Okay, and one thing we have to also remember, Leo, when your MP fails to go to the parliament and legislate or to advance your interest as a people, it's your fault as a mwananchi. Your responsibility as a voter and as a citizen does not stop at the ballot station, at the polling station. We have to have active citizenry. If your MP is not doing his work, is not advancing your interest, we can recall them, put pressure on them. That's what I'm saying. And this is what I mentioned. That's why I say it is also our fault as wananchi, because these MPs, you vote for them to go there, they don't do their jobs. Alafu sisi tunakaa hapa tunasema ati Ruto anaiba, while people who should be bringing a motion to impeach Ruto, they're not even showing up in court. I used an example of that finance bill that you're telling me right now. When it was time to vote for that finance bill, 89 MPs did not show up for that vote. Majority of them were Azimio. And these same MPs came back and told us that, hey, Ruto did this, Ruto did this. Ruto did not force anyone to pass that bill. He didn't put a gun in somebody's head and told you, don't come and vote. They did so by their own volition. They didn't show up. So the thing passed by majority, okay? So you can't come back and say and blame Ruto is passing a high tax bill, whatever, finance bill, that's having us pay high taxes, while your MP who was supposed to vote on that motion absconded, didn't show up. You should hold that MP responsible. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So don't blame Ruto. Ruto is just doing his job as a Nino. Ameleta Nino. The bill was introduced there. The parliament was supposed to vote on it. Your parliamentarian failed to show up. Whose fault is it? And you're still listening to these MPs when they come back to you, the mashinani, and you agree with him. So whose fault is that? It is you as the citizen. That's why I say the biggest problem with wananchi in Kenya is that we don't understand how government works. Ndio maana people like Martha Karua can come here and tell us that fungueni server. Ruto is not responsible for the server. That is the responsibility of the IBC. And IBC cannot open the server because the matter has been ruled on by the Supreme Court. But Anna enjoy because he knows you guys are ignorant. You understand? That's why I'm saying even these Azimio people, Anna enjoy. They are part of the Ruto mess.
Sorry for that. Sorry. Let me ask you, Bwana Kenya Rebel. The people who lost their lives during Maandamano the other day, with this report, has justice been served?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Where did you hear anything about the Nino, the people who lost their lives? to say ati tutawapatia at least 13 or 30,000 for anyone who lost their lives or property in the maandamano. Nothing. They only went to listen. Remember when the atrocity happened in Nyalenda, in Kisumu, or the next a few days later, the Azimio people, Raila Odinga and Kenyatta and Kalonzo went to Westlands. Was it Karen? Actually, they went to Karen to hold a vigil in Karen while the atrocities happened in Nyalenda. Okay, they didn't even call for the government to pay those people who lost their lives. Nothing like that. They didn't even seek justice. No justice is being sought by these people. But these are the guys who we believe that will bring change. I mean, that's why I say we are in trouble, and the only way is for us to exercise our powers that we are given to by the Constitution. Let's bring it back. Remember, we donated it. Let's take it back. Let's vote these people out because they're not advancing our interest in the legislative body to check the president from doing all these atrocities they're doing. That's why I'm blaming both Azimio, especially the Azimio, because these are the guys who are supposed to be checking the president. But ukisema hivyo, they call me Kenya Kwanza, they call me sijui nini, they call me nini. Well, these people, you see what I'm saying? That's why I'm saying I'm independent.
Okay, interesting. Leo, let me ask you this, even as I bring in Mzalendo. At one point, I strongly believe that Kenya Kwanza as well are letting us down. We didn't elect them just to be choir members of Kenya, of the government. You know, in any case, our constitution is so clear that we don't have an opposition. We just have the legislation or the legislators checking the government. But as it is, I think in the last regime and this one, what we elect is members of a choir team. We have bass singers, sopranos, and alto. We don't have members of parliament. In that, when the government is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, we don't have the parliament speaking out. When we have the government going out of its way to issue taxes that some are even so, you know, we don't see that arm very strong. At what point will we say now we have, at times we praise the Senate, but it's long since we spoke anything positive about parliament. Either it's Kenya Kwanza, Azimio, it's long. Because in the previous regime, we were saying it's the handshake regime. And we were saying all things are passing because of the handshake, blah, blah, blah. You remember? Now we are saying it's because of Kenya Kwanza. But by the end of the day, if you remember correctly, that our constitution does not have the opposition side. It only has the majority and the minority side, but has the legislators, all of them, as keeping check the government. Why is that role fading away from our parliament?
I think the problem we had, you know, when we look at our constitution, whereby we talk of having three arms of government that are independent, the executive and judiciary and the national, the parliament. But it's a matter of fact that these institutions are not independent. They are influenced, and the most powerful organ, I think, is the executive. So had we had independent institutions, then one would not want that if I'm heading executive and I also have to control the parliament. Immediately, William Ruto was declared, he realized he didn't have that comfortable control of the parliament. So he had to go his way so that he can be able to control the National Assembly. This country would really be better. I would really imagine a country whereby we are having the executive from the Kenya Kwanza, then we are having a parliament that is being maybe majority there are Azimio. It will really work smart because each and every organ will be making the independent decisions. But right now, what is discussed in parliament must be in line with what executive wants to do. It is true, executive are the ones that are supposed to implement the government policies, but these policies are designed, and most of the policies should come from the National Assembly. So because the executive is the one controlling the National Assembly, so we have to hold the person leading the executive responsible, because he has got influence in the National Assembly, so he influences the policies that are being discussed or that are being put forward, and is the one who now have to implement these policies. We will stop blaming the executive if the executive tells us that, look, our role is to implement, but we are having majority of Azimio in the legislature, so we took this bill there and they failed to pass it, and that is why we are stuck. But here we are having an executive that is also comfortably controlling the parliament. So meaning whatever they want to implement, they'll get it served from the parliament, because these policies are made in parliament. So if the Kenya Kwanza today wants a free primary education, it is simple. They have the speaker there and majority of the MPs, they'll have to pass this, then they'll just be implementing. So we cannot blame maybe the minority, because minority only play in the parliament and senate. And with them, maybe they might try to help formulating some better policies. But if these policies are not implemented, then we'll now have to blame the implementer. We will only blame the minority.
I think, Leo, before I get you wrong, let me ask you.
Yeah.
The Constitution, has it defined the role of the minority side?
And the Constitution has defined the role. Okay. That is what now the confusion that we're having. Our Constitution only defines the role of Parliament. Parliament
Our
is
Constitution first describes that we have the majority and minority, correct?
And actually, and the role of minority and minority is the same, to legislate. So there's nowhere they say minority will be opposing.
Because in your argument, I almost felt that you almost want to create a distinction between, or rather demarcation between the majority and minority. Of course, I know the majority at times comes from the government side, but in this case, we are talking about the three arms of government. And
yeah,
that
actually,
was my question.
I think in the old
this one arm of government feels as though it's letting us down totally.
In the old Constitution, the debates in Parliament were more of opposing and proposing, because we had the opposition, whereby if a government brought some item of debate, because you're in opposition, you were subjected to go against it. But currently, we are having minority and majority. And at any time, somebody from a minority party, those are just as far as the leadership is concerned and how to distribute the positions, and they're political actually, but practically somebody from minority side will find himself or herself supporting a bill brought by somebody from the majority side. So we will determine the majority and minority at the point of voting or at the point of contributing in the floor. If somebody comes up with a bill that we want to ensure that kids are given sanitary pads in school, this person is from maybe, let's say, minority leader Opiyo Wandayi, then those people from majority side feel that this bill is fit. They will vote for it, and they will give some better reasons why they need to vote for it. So after taking that vote, you'll find that the people who will carry the day will be the majority. So this majority is just political, but practically you can change, you can shift, you can be voted in ODM, but when you reach there, somebody from UDA brings a progressive bill, then you pass it, you support it. So parliament is defined as a whole unit. So if the parliament fails, the entire parliament fails. That is why I normally say we have to blame the parliament, not the Azimio or the Kenya Kwanza. The entire parliament has failed. Look at the days they are normally active.
Now you have answered
single out
correctly,
the state is minority.
Yes. Now let me ask you, Bwana Kenya Rebel. Let's take, for instance, Let's imagine, for example, that this report sails through, and we even go to a referendum, and the referendum sails through. Now, we now create the office of the official leader of opposition. Two questions. Number one, will this person sit in parliament throughout? Two, will this person be a member of parliament? Because initially they used to be members of parliament who maybe vied as president and lost, but then came back to be leaders of opposition. How will these leaders of opposition be? Is it the second runners up in the presidential election? Because even a governor can lose an election, and since he had a party and he was popular, he can choose also to be leader of the opposition. Take case, for example, Jubilee right now. If Kanini Kega had a super majority, let's say Jubilee had close to 1/3, right? Kanini Kega was not running for presidency, but Jubilee ends up having a good number of MPs, right? ODM as well has the same number of MPs. How will we determine the opposition leader? Is it the one who ran as president or the one who has super majority in parliament? Who becomes the opposition leader?
Well, before that referendum is passed, I think they shall have to define the roles of this cabinet secretary, the official opposition. They have to define that before the referendum is passed. As of right now, we don't know because there's no such position in our constitution. But just to go back to what Leo was saying about minority and majority and all that stuff, and how the president is getting things passed. No, within the legislative body, there's parties, political parties, and there's Political Parties Act. Okay, so you become majority, as you know, you're majority if you are the party you belong to has more numbers than the other. If you have fewer parties in the legislative body, we say you are minority. If you have the majority's numbers in the parliament, you are the majority. Okay. Now, when the president has something he wants to pass in a bill that he wants to pass through the legislative body, okay, he needs it to be made law by the legislative body. Okay, it should be ideally, it should be debated, and there should be public participation. Article 118 of the Constitution requires that there is public participation, meaning your legislator, your MP, should go back to mashinani and check the temperature. What does his or her constituency want regarding that bill? Remember Finance Act nani? Sinakumbuka Finance Bill. When there was a guy who was forgot his name. He was Kenya Kwanza, and he went to his constituency, and his constituency told him, "I don't want it. We don't want it."
It was a lady.
A lady, sorry.
Mashamba.
Yes, Mashamba. And she went back and and she went back and voted against it. Okay, that is real democracy. Now, you can't say that the president has influence on the parliament or the legislative body just because he's the president. Okay, you can say, okay, he has influence because the party members, his party members, the parliamentarians that are in the parliament, they make up the majority. So it might be easier for him to pass his bill. But like I say, if the bill is debated and if we have public participation, we can have a consensus on how people feel about that bill. That's why I use the Finance Act, ideally. So even if the minority don't want that bill, waende huko kwa constituency na waende kwa ground, watu waseme ati kitu hatutaki, it should influence the vote of the majority to vote against that bill. That's why I use the example of low cost of living. Across the nation, even in Uasin Gishu, even in Kenya Kwanza strongholds, they want the prices of fuel and cost of living to go down in general. Okay, so I'm saying this: why can't this Azimio folks, even though they are the minority in the legislative body, why can they use that opportunity to link up, to influence their counterparts in Kenya Kwanza, who they know their constituents want the cost of living to go down, and say, hey, listen, we have this bill that will help most Kenyans, the people we are serving, to shukisha your bei ya ninio, okay? And they can agree on that and pass it to become law, and it will force the president to adhere to that, okay? And that's how you clip the president's powers. That's what I meant. But again, okay, as I say, most of these things, we don't know how governments works. Sisi tukiambiwa na Raila, fungua server, tunasema fungua server. But we don't even know who's supposed to open the server and how the process works. Raila akisema tumekubali tu.
Now, at what point will it ever be about Mwananchi? Because when BBI came, it still had the same issues. Now this report is out. Mwananchi has not been remembered, though. In any case, his issues have been postponed or not, rather been featured. Yet, when they need us to speak, or rather to participate in the maandamanos, we are there. When they need us to vote, we are there. Actually, some wake up very early in the morning. That day is actually declared a national holiday or whatever. People queue in hours. They come out to demand to vote. But when it's their time to be heard, when it's their time to be represented, when it's their time to come first, they don't matter. At what point do you think that might change? Because as it is, this report is, if it is anything to go by, does not speak for Wanjiko. Sorry to say so, but it doesn't. Why? They have rightfully said the housing levy is still there. The fuel levy is still there. The cost of living literally has not been tackled. In any case, what they have proposed is that the government should cut by half the traveling, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So how does that affect Mwananchi ule wa chini? How does he feel appreciated, thought of, and at least there is some degree of concern from this committee? This committee was a serious one anyway.
Very quickly, before I let Mzalendo talk, the only way is to Mwananchi has to understand the powers that they have. Now, that will take maybe some MPs, because the problem is this: tukichagua mtu, we believe them so much. Whatever they say, that's what we go by. But if we have people, I don't know, I don't want to say NGOs, but civic education, so we can understand the power that we have. Instead, the power that the passion that these Azimio folks are telling us they'll go to Maandamano, they should use that passion to educate their supporters on the powers that they have. Put pressure on, because at the end of the day, Jakes, this, at the end of the day, the Mwananchi is the person who has the real power. They have to put pressure on their representative to do the right thing, okay? To demand that their interest is they look out for their interest. That MP will feel safe doing nothing at the parliament, legislating zero, not even showing up, being quiet the whole term, and still be re-elected. That is wrong. We should know that we have the power to remove them. Remember, let me give you a quick example before I finish. Remember when this talk started, and then somebody, Ichungwa, akaika kwa internet and say that these Azimio folks are not even, they didn't even include the cost of living. And there was an uproar. All of a sudden, when watu wakaanza kukasirika, even the Azimio supporters started saying, kumbe mlienda kujiangalilia huko hivyo. And after that uproar, the next day, Azimio made a press conference. Hey, we are going to make cost of living the first thing in the issue, okay? Because they were scared to death that the wananchi wamekasirika. You have to be angry and you have to hold your representative, who's at the legislative body, to do the right thing. Stop barking at Ruto. Ruto will not move or budge if you don't act and make the people who we donated this power to remove him. That's my message to all these people.
Mzalendo, good to see you. I know you're doing well. I can see. I hope you are. But uko aje, my brother? How are you?
Jake, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine.
Karibu sana kwa show. Good to see you.
And habari Japolo. Kenya Rebel.
Tunamngojea kesho avae ataya yake ya kazi. Tunangoja Japolo, kesho ni Sunday. Kesho ni Sunday.
Today you brought in I mean, whatever has happened today, I've been following on the background, but it's like the bipartisan talks have come to an end. With the Mwananchi, of course, still wondering whether it was meant to, whether our issues were discussed or not. That is what I've been saying all along in these talk shows, with the Leo defending the bipartisan talks. But unfortunately now you can realize that these politicians are always after what is important to them. You come third, or you are not even, you're only a voting machine to bring them to power to enjoy the goodies that comes with the representation. And now, having said that, whatever happens in the bipartisan talks, whatever issues that they will bring in parliament, that is what they ought to have done before constituting a panel in Bomas, eating our taxes, millions of our taxes for so many months. That whatever they were discussing should have been discussed in parliament. Now, this is how stupid we are. The issues are going to be brought in parliament for discussions, and they will pass because the Azimio leader will whip his MPs and the Senate, and even at the county level, because some of these issues may raise a referendum questions or queries. So it will be the same thing. They ought to have taken the issues in parliament. The same parliament that they are saying is compromised is the same place where these issues are going back to. So where are we? We are being taken in circles in the name of politics. We are being taken in circles in the name of politics. I've seen proclamations in funerals and gatherings. Like today, Baba said he's still in the ballot. He's still not in the ballot, but he asked his supporters whether he should go on. So he's still around for some time. So anything that was being discussed at Bomas was going to benefit the Kenya Kwanza regime, and at the same time benefit Azimio, and at the same time benefit Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. That is why Uhuru has never left politics. He is always in the political circles. Why? Because there is something good coming in the bipartisan talks. Whether you like it or not, we, the Mwananchi, are not represented in the bipartisan talks. When it comes to the cost of living should have been discussed in parliament. That is where the laws are implemented, not a committee in Bournemouth implementing laws that will guide or laws that will bring the cost of living down. Those issues ought to have been discussed in parliament. Now, Ruto jokingly said that, or Gachagua jokingly said that if Raila wants a seat, tutampatia. Yeah, it means that they are crafting something. Tutampatia na tutampatia outriders. motorbike 2, 3, 4 akitoka Karen anaenda kwa ofisi yake. You know, that is how ridiculous our politics is. They know what they know the bargaining power of each and every individual and what suits them. You are never in the discussion. So we ought to think very, very deeply. And part of the issues facing Kenya today is not the politician, is the voter who is not well informed to vote for the right people. Yeah, if we could have 50% or 60% Okiem Tatas in Senate and 60 or 70% Okiem Tatas in Parliament, then we would have some good representation. But right now we have some tribal leaders who are elected and who depend on the tribal metrics to get into power and pass these ridiculous laws that affect you and me and you. Yeah, why can't they reduce their salaries? Why can't they forfeit their allowances? Yeah, why are we subjected to this high cost of living, yet we are paying their mortgages, we are paying their cars, we are paying their servants, we are paying their fuel. Remember, Jacks, whoever employs you or Kenya Rebel, should they give you fuel to go to work? Yeah, you are being given fuel to go to work. The day we will say no to an MP overlapping traffic because he's an MP is the day we will take the things into our hands. But so long as the MP overlaps traffic and you find it okay, so long as the speaker overlaps traffic and you find it okay, we are a problem. We are a problem, and we should not blame Raila Odinga, or we should not blame Ruto. We are the problem. We are the ones who put these people into power. We are the ones who have got these standards of tribal metrics that we use to elect our leaders. So the day you will start electing leaders on policies and what they represent and not the money in their pocket is when we will have good leadership in Kenya. So otherwise, Jakes will be waking up each and every day saying Ruto this, Raila that, Raila that. Raila's policies are implemented, on a funeral gathering. Yeah, and he whips his MPs in every congregation that he meets. Now look at the debts that have.
I just want
Look
to
at
bring in.
let me finish, Jax.
Okay.
Let me finish. Look at the
Yeah,
people
go
who
ahead.
died. People who died in Nyanza. Look at how those MPs, Kina Kaluma, the rest, were saying that something ought to be done to these families. What has been done so far? You understand, they have done nothing. For me, I thought that the next day they would be in court, taking the government to court so that the families can get compensation. But so far, nothing. And we are comfortable with the situation. Yeah, the parents of this the graves are still, the graves are still fresh in those compounds. Yet the next rallies is held in the next market, next village, and nothing is mentioned about these children who died, fighting for democracy, fighting for what they believed was right at that particular time. And they were told to come out in numbers and no compensation. Year in, year out, Baby Pendo died. Yeah, so many people have died in this struggle, but no compensation at all. All we are looking for is what is good for us. So how long should we continue to suffer in this in the hands of these politicians? That is the big question. How long are we going to continue voting stupidly and following them stupidly in their agenda? Yet we are not part of the benefits they get. Yeah.
Now, I love how the Standard have put it in today's newspaper. Kindly subscribe to our channel and tomorrow morning watch our show. We begin tomorrow bright and early. But I want to give you a sneak peek of what the Standard has given in its news today, or rather in the news newspaper today. Now, this is what they're saying. I want to show you. This is tomorrow's, or rather Sunday's newspaper. And according to Standard, you can see this is tomorrow's newspaper. Now, they're saying it's now up to the two, Raila Odinga and William Ruto. This is after, of course, the conclusion of the bipartisan talks. They're saying now that the dialogue committee says divergent opinion set to President William Ruto and Raila Odinga with the cost of living agenda still unresolved as the Bomas team releases the report. Now, these are some of the things that the team agreed on. One of the things that they agreed on was Senate Oversight Fund, Ward Development Fund, and NGCDF. Number two, what they agreed on was Office of Leader of Opposition with 2 deputies. Prime Cabinet Secretary's office, a Constitution office to oversight party fidelity. They also agreed to audit the 2022 general election process, expand IEBC section panel from 7 to 9, increase timeline for Supreme Court to hear presidential petition from 14 days to 21 days, reduce official travel budget by 50% to cut subsistence allowance by 30%, reduce road maintenance levy and anti-adulteration levy by 5 shillings and 3 shillings respectively. And of course, government to finalize transfer of all devolved function. Now, what they deferred on were only 2 things. Number 1, reduction of VAT of fuel from 16 to 8%, and of course, scrapping of the controversial housing levy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is the much they said they were discussing in as much as they were talking of the cost of living. Only 2 things, only 2 items. Mzalendo, I've read the list. From the list, almost nothing affects Mwananchi. Almost nothing, if there is anything. They want to put Senate fund, CDF iwe constitutional, MCA apewe pesa, the office of the... So Mwananchi is not featured in this. But Mwananchi was featured in Maandamano.
The thing is, we are just an ignorant voting bloc. We are very, very ignorant. A majority of us are very, very ignorant. And the issues you have raised, and some of the, if the funds are going to go to the MCAs to do whatever to do the developments at the constituency level, one, it is an increment of what they are simply saying is that they want to be like MPs. MCAs are saying they want to be like MPs. They want to have a CDF at constituency level. Now, the senators are also saying they want to have a CDF at county level. The women rep are also saying they want a CDF at county level. Now, look at all these funds. Look at all these funds going to the county. Instead of consolidating them to one block and increasing, at the same time, they want to increase allocations to the county governments. What kind of thinking? I mean, are we dealing with the mad people? Are these people really thinking? All these funds, same funds. The MCA will be issuing bursaries at the ward level. The constituency member of parliament who represents the MP will be also issuing bursary to the same constituents at the constituency level, devolving those funds to the wards. So here is a family getting bursary from the MCA, getting bursary from the MP, getting bursary from the women rep, getting bursary from the senator. Now, this is what this tells you. These guys are so dumb, they cannot create a bill in parliament that will give free secondary education to everybody else, and and every family, so that they are not going to pay school fees for them. But why do they still want those funds? Those funds are a bribe to you will look at those funds are a bribe. Those funds are going to be eaten. Those funds are going to be used in every election year to bribe the same voters to vote for them, because now they who, for example, who will oversight the MCA if he eats your funds? What does the constitution tell you of who is going to oversight? For example, an MCA, Nuru Okanga, is given 200 million. Somebody who cannot count one up to 1 million is given 200 million to control. Yeah? Who is going to oversight such people?
Now, I agree with you, and I couldn't even wish to add anything. But
I
all
need somebody to tell me where in the law who is going to oversight an MCA who has been given 100 million or 200 million for what development? I need an answer to that.
Interesting question.
I need an answer to that. If somebody gives me an answer to that, if somebody tells me that there is a law in our constitution that says that they can be oversighted other than the people that they represent, of course, right now, even as they represent us, they don't provide the services that they ought to provide for us. And we have got nothing other than just to collect signatures, which is also impossible to do, and take them to the county assembly or to the county assembly for the removal of the same MP. I mean, we are messed up. And remember, the same in a county, we have a one-party system where majority are either Azimio, or in Rift Valley, majority are UDA. Who is going to oversight members of the same political party with the same agenda, using our public funds? Nobody. The constitution never foresaw this, and that is why I agree with PLO Lumumba when he says that this constitution needs to be reviewed. It needs to be reviewed. There's so many loopholes here.
And you see, I agree with you. It needs to be reviewed, but you see, these are the things they will bring that they want to review by adding to the constitution. Now, when you look at this, what they have already tabled, Kenya Rebel, 2/3 gender rule is missing here. The women issue is not here. So I'm sure that one already will bring some noise from tomorrow. Number 2, the cost of living is so loudly missing here. But funny enough, this will be the debate in the coming days. When you look at all this that is appearing from the report, was there need for maandamano for any of this?
Jakes, I wanted to ask you the very question. I wanted to ask you, can you remind me again why the Azimio went to maandamano? Can you remind me the reason they gave us for maandamano?
They wanted the servers to be opened, and they wanted the cost of living, which they said was number one to be addressed. Now, according to, if that is anything to go by, from this bullet number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 says that there will be an audit of 2022 electoral process, an expanded IEBC selection panel from 7 to 9. That's the best they came up with. Of course, I'm sure there's much more in the details of this report, but from the note heading, they just will have an audit of the electoral process. But it doesn't mention that they'll open
Jakes, sorry to cut you short. You see, in the last part where they are saying some of the issues were the two issues that were deferred. They differed with what?
The two issues
reduction
are
of VAT.
The house levy and the reduction to 16%.
You know why
of VAT on fuel.
Do you know why? Do you know?
The scrapping of the controversial levy.
Do you know why? Do you know why VAT cannot be reduced to 8%?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea why it cannot be reduced to 8%?
Please inform us.
Now, VAT cannot be reduced to 8% for one reason. The Ruto government took loans with IMF. And remember, when Uhuru had reached a point where he was not going to be given loans anymore, we had reached that level where we cannot be given any money with any institution. Now, when they negotiated with IMF, they had to tell them or to show them how they are going to repay their money back. Just like you walking into a bank, you have to tell them how you are going to pay the money back. Do you have any collateral? Collateral means uweke nyumba, uweke logbook, uweke nini. So the only collateral they have is the Kenyan people using their cars and pumping fuel, because that is a necessity, and they know that there is money in that. So that was the requirement to get any more funds from IMF, and any more loan repayment plan is still pegged on fuel. So with the duration that Ruto will be in power, don't expect that that VAT 16% will go down. It will not go down. It will still be at 16%. What he is going to do is simply to reduce some of the taxes on fuel, but maintaining or some taxes in other areas, and maintain the 16% VAT. That Azimio knows so well. They know so well, but that is what they will be dwelling in, to make it a political, a political chorus, that this is what is affecting you people. This fuel is what is affecting you people. So as they move to 2027, in politics, you have to have an issue. So the issue will be, did you see that the cost of living, the cost of fuel did not come down? But Ruto is a smart leader. Ruto is smart in that he wants to make sure that they don't have any agenda come 2027. That is the reason why they already have an office, the office that he has given them, the office of the official opposition. And Ruto also knows that if anything happens, that he will not be in power, he will still be in the opposition, occupying the same office that he created. It's under the same deputies and all that he created. People like Gachagua, they're going nowhere.
Actually, this is a very interesting position, because it comes with two deputies. It comes with two deputies, eh?
Na kazi yao ni gani? Kazi yao. Let us look at now, Jakes, we want you to look at kazi yao, deputies ni gani? Kama Mudavadi ndio ana kazi, hao wengine kazi yao itakuwa ni gani?
Jakes, and
I'm glad has an idea. Yes,
now, I was just saying, just to add on what Mzalendo said, just this week, I don't know if you saw it in the news, it was in Standard Nation Africa. It says that there'll be zero subsidies. That is the condition by the IMF. The Kenyan government cannot provide subsidies for anything, subsidize anything. It was a nation. And remember when I started coming, I kept on telling people, IMF, imetunyonga, these people are still, some people like Alex who used to come here used to call me a conspiracy theory. Nikiwaambia. Now go look at something, homework, Jake, na kupatia homework leo na Mzalendo. Go look at this economic free zone. Kenya has 28 companies that are operating in economic free zones. These guys pay literally no taxes, zero. Okay, dig into that. I'll be speaking on that later. But anyway, so Mzalendo is right. This VAT will not come down, and these things that some of the things that Azimio are proposing, again, like that VAT. And again, I've been waxing lyrical about this. Suji fungueni server. The server will not be opened for the reasons I've gave. Junakwambia, these people, Raila and Martha Karua and the rest who are screaming fungueni server, it is insulting the intelligence of Kenyan people. because they know this thing will not happen. But they keep on telling us, legally, we cannot open the server. But wanapatia mafans wao hope. These are their followers. Wanafikiria server itafunguliwa ati Ruto fungue server. Ruto cannot open the server. It's not his responsibility. It is the IEBC. Now, Jakes, jiulize hivi. Hao watu walienda maandamano ndio they can have 2 deputies, sijui deputy of opposition leader. Walibeba masufuria ndio wakwa. That's the question these people.
Exactly.
I told them, now wanakasirika wakikuja hapa. Niliwaambia, these leaders, these Azimio people, Raila Odinga, he will thiringenye these people. He will thiringenye them. Remember, he started with the signatures. Walianza na signature, hata before signature, walianza na nini? Ati wataenda State House. Your story ikaisha. They started with 20 million signatures. Your story ikaisha. Then they started another. What did they start with?
What happened to them? What happened to the signature collection?
Exactly. Wanazungushwa hivi. But at the end of the day, as we said, I told them, this will be BBI, na nyinyi mtawachwa hapo, na mkilialia ati sijui nini. And these are the questions. In fact, I want somebody from Azimio to log in and tell us exactly, are they happy with what they see from this report? Leo didn't seem to be happy. He left. He was saying, I want to talk to these Azimio people and also Kenya Kwanza and also Kenya Kwanza people. Are they happy with this report? That's what I'm curious of.
Okay. Now, even as we near wrapping up, there is this one more thing that really struck my attention. Of course, we started with it, and I want to end with it. It's the issue of the KCPE. Now, according to what do you call it, NEC, they are saying that the errors that happened, according to them, the errors happened because of SMS, what. This is what they are saying, that more anomalies kwa KCPE as NEC defends the results. Hapo chini inasema ya kwamba Council CEO David Njegere admits they had errors, but says only SMS data was affected due to configuration challenges. My question to you, Kenya Rebel, what was the rush? All this could have been sorted out before disgracing our country with releasing results that, remind you, these were the final results. Never again will we have KCPE being announced to the country. Never again. But they did us a disservice by rushing, by giving us issues, by giving us results, then come to explain that they had challenged, blah, blah, blah. What was the rush?
Let me answer it by a little diversion, kidogo. I watched Nuru Okanga's interview with NTV. And I can confidently say that man did not sit for that exam. He did not. He did not sit for that exam. I can
confidently ask this question. What did he score in English? I would want to know.
Because when he was asked,
but he scored an A from the online sources. He had an 80, right? He had an 80. But no. Expressing himself in English, there is where he draws that big line.
To me, I'm not even concerned about the English. He was asked a simple question. And was it a question in was it history or something? And Jamaa, so that's what I'm saying. This whole Kenya ni Hollywood. Wacha niwaambie ni Hollywood. You can write a movie and be successful. Drama. So I mean, I wasn't surprised in things like this. So all I can say is we have a rotten system that needs to be sorted out. Okay, whether it's going to be a KCPE or whatever is coming after that. Okay, we need to put places a system that can be transparent, where mkifanya exams hakuna ile story ati sijui papers zilipotea hapa, sijui helicopter ilianguka na sijui nini na sijui is the system. No. Now watu Kanuru Ekanga, we are being told they have scored how much, and we can't even verify. We have to fix the system. That's all I can say for now. I don't know the intricacies of it, but we need an overhaul. But we have to remove, we citizens, we need to empower ourselves to remove these people that we donated our power to, whether it's the MCAs, these legislative bodies, our wakina Raila waze to enjoy, because I think the benefit that we get from this report, it shows us one thing, that the political class wanatubeba ufala. And if you haven't realized that, whether you're in Kenya Kwanza or Azimio, God help us. Thank you, Jay.
Now, let me hear your final words on this man, because this is what informed the show, even as we wrap up. Please tell me, what is your 2 cents on this one? This
Uju net dakika chiel. Wami uju net dakika chiel.
Natikeuntie. Nimesikia Ruto amekuja kuiba shamba hapa. Nimesikia ni mwizi ya shamba. Wacha niambie nyinyi, tutapambana na yeye bunge na tutapeleka yeye kotini, na hiyo shamba hawezi kuiba. Asanteni sana. Wacha Fatuma akuja wasalimie.
This is the same man
who politicians who ananijengea siku.
Go ahead.
Let's even think it. At what point do we say government has stolen land? At what point? Stolen, that was the word used. At what point? Because if you read about land, kwanza land zote ni za gava to start with, right? Or rather, they are owned by Kenya.
They regulate it.
Yes, it is. Then, of course, kukona policies, or rather, kukona community land, kuna blah, 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 kuna how land has been defined eventually, or rather in the constitution. So at what point does Ruto wake up, if anything that man, what is his name? Mohammed something, Junet, if anything he has said is true, at what point is what he has said true? At what point is it true?
Wait,
because
you have to
have a tendency of inciting the masses. Of course, I put that headline so that we discuss that topic, because you asked me why did we. That was the reason why. At what point does Ruto become a thief and using his government to steal from the great people of Migori? At what point?
Regarding Junet, remember Junet? He called the followers of Azimio ng'ombe. Am I lying? Cows. Remember that?
I don't have to go there, but you're saying
I'm already there. I don't have to go there. This is what wanawabeba hivyo. They think of you that way. Because wanakuja hapa na to use uhuru. Maneno matamu. Wanaenjoy, they incite you for political purposes. But that's why I say, at some point, wananchi sisi kama wananchi, we have to sit down and say, hey, mazee, lakini 1 + 1 is not 5. This what these people are saying, are they adding up? Do we sit down and think about what these people are saying? Because ndio maana I can't fall on whether it's on the president. Ndio maana nasema Jake, most of the easy headlines like hapa, we are pointing our fingers at Ruto. But the problem is bigger than Ruto. And I think this channel like this one, I wanted to start advocating for people. So let us put the next title like this: Ruto and Raila and the whole of this political class wanatubeba ujinga, ufala. That is what it should be. So we can start putting these people, their feet on fire. Tuache kuangalia TV Kenya Kwanza ama sijui nini. Juu wote hao watu wanatuenjoy sote. But they want to play this division so that we can think, hey, this side is it, because they know if we unite and we start hold them responsible, they won't have a crowd to give us hizo content wanatupatia za kila siku ati sijui nini. That's what I would say. So let us learn and exercise our power as voters. Mmeka hiyo Arsenal move top of the sasa unaona, sasa unanifukuza vizuri sasa Jake na hiyo but I'll see you tomorrow, Jake.
Okay, now that news, Arsenal moves on top of the league. We celebrate them. Thank you so much to this wonderful, great team for making us proud. Asanteni sana kwa kuongoza ligi. Bashida yenu tu ni moja, mtatupea hopes, right? Mtaongoza ligi, alafu uko mbele mtufanye ile kitu wadau. So simjaribu tu raundi, mtufanyie tu favor, at least muende hadi mwisho Kadi tamati ni asante sana kwa kujiunga nami, wewe ambao umejiunga nasi hadi sasa. Naona wengi mmejaribu. Asante sana, good year. I celebrate you for being the last person to be with us from the beginning na hadi sasa. Asante sana, umekuwa mtu wa kishua. Thank you very much. And many, si wewe tu, wengi ambao umejiunga nasi. Asante kwa wale ambao walilike hii video tangia tuanze, asanteni sana. Likes zimekuwa nyingi mpaka zingine zimejificha, lakini kwa zile ambazo ninaweza kuona kwa sasa, naona Shakai James alilike hii video. Thank you so much Shakai. I see Wout Nyalo alilike hii video. Onyango Churchill, asante sana kwa kulike hii video. Mora asante sana. Mule Mwagangi asante sana. Joyce ama Joy wa Boy, asante sana kwa kulike hii video. Vincent Makani, asante kwa kulike hii video. Blessed Kale Mutaidi, asante sana kwa kulike hii video. Offline kwa Mboka, asante sana. I saw you. Kipiegon KA, asante kwa kulike hii video. Mutesa one, yeah, asante sana kwa kulike hii video. Vincent, asante sana kwa kulike hii video. Onyango, I see you. Nani mwingine like hii video? Naona nani mwingine? Blessed pia I like hii video. Thank you so much for liking the video, subscribing to Africa. Now subscribe to Africa, kimbia hapo kwa YouTube channel. Si tufanye tu hiyo kitu to promote watu wawili watatu ambao wamesubscribe. Tutawafanyia hivyo probably let me see, maybe tomorrow I'll be announcing. I just need to get the vouchers with me so that when we read them, you are able to see them. So usikose kwa your list. It will be live. So how do you win? You win by subscribing. So I'm sure the team working on that, those vouchers should be in any moment. I thought they would be in today, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe tomorrow they might be in. Maybe tomorrow we might be reading subscribers who have won great gift hampers, nice gift hampers, including shopping vouchers. Hey, na hii economy msaki kuchapa kavocha kakufanya shopping. Maybe umechapa kavocha ka 5k. Utafeel aje mtu wangu? To find out when you utafeel, subscribe hapo kwa Africa 24 na tutafanya ile kitu. Subscribe. The tickets are easy to get by just subscribing. You just subscribe and our system will definitely pick you. When that is finalized, we'll be reading the names. We'll be awarding the subscribers. So subscribe to Africa 24. Kimbia hapo channel ya YouTube, subscribe. Kimbia hapo channel ya Facebook, follow. Follow Adau. And this show comes to you every day from 10 p.m. And if we are not in, we'll always try to bring you something just to make up. Follow our channel. Uko ndani kuna content kibao, including football kama ya leo ilikuwa hapo ndani where Kenyans walifanya ile mambo. Subscribe to Africa, tutakufanyia zile storo. Here is where we unlock the African story. Here we keep it real. Enjoy our content. Tomorrow morning a new show begins. Yeah, you heard me right. Tomorrow morning from 8 p.m. Kenyan, 8 a.m. not 8 p.m. 8 a.m. Kenyan time. Wadau, show inaanza 8 a.m. Subscribe ujue ni show inagana. Nakwambia show kali, show fiti, presenter wa noma, content kali. Alafu hapo katikati kutakuwa na service. So in case you miss service, tune in to Afrique. Kutakuwa na a nice service for you. So subscribe and enjoy all our programming. There'll be nice shows, including dating shows, love shows. Hey, wadau. Raundi Afrique wanafanyia ile kitu. Imagine ni channel moja inakuwa award kwa kusubscribe, inakuwa award kwa kuwatch, na pia inakupa burudani kemkem. So do what? Subscribe. See you at 8 a.m. wadau. See you at 8 a.m. Show kali, show fiti inaanza asubuhi. I promised you that we'll have more shows, more content after content. Subscribe to Afrique and enjoy all that we give to you. Asante sana. I've been your host, Jex, the moderator. I couldn't have done this without you. Asante sana for keeping watch, for being with me throughout the show. You guys are just wonderful. I love you. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. This is Afrique 24. Bye-bye.